Hey Skyfarers, and welcome to Aethercast, the Kharadron Overlords podcast. I'm Lee, the Arcanine Admiral, and joining me today, a number of great admirals from around the globe. We have our Thunderer from Down Under, Mr. Alex Krohn.
Hey.
Hi, Krohn. What have you been up to recently, Krohn? Any more bat reps or games?
No, not after the last one.
Slack.
Yeah, I guess we're prepping for a tournament coming up in November. It's just going to be a short 3-gamer, one day, and I'm just dragging as many friends as I can to it. People who haven't necessarily been to tournaments before. So yeah, it's going to be a more of a casual thing. So I'm thinking of taking not the Face Smasher 2000 list and maybe going with something more fun like a Mornar list.
Or Skywarden spam.
Should have said Barak Thryng. That was your
I mean, man, Mornar is still kind of face.
I mean, that'd be topical. Yeah. A Barak Thryng list. Wow. Gotta get Gotrek in there.
Yeah.
Yes.
Let's introduce everyone else before we get distracted. The guest that won't go away, Mr. Max Baumann.
Hi.
How are you, Max?
I'm fine, thank you. We're going back in lockdown, so no more gaming, so more painting.
But you have Tabletop Simulator, don't you? So
yes, but I prefer real dice rolling.
Yeah, of course.
TTS isn't the same.
It's okay. It's okay.
At least if you have it, you can practice and stuff. And keep your game up.
Better than nothing.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And also joining us, we had him on the last Navigating The Skyports show, Beards of Glory, Mr. Kyle Calip. Welcome to the show again.
Hello. Thanks again. Unlike the other two, I love tabletop simulating.
Great.
More practice is more practice.
Yep. And you've got an election going on over where you are. But that's fun.
Yeah. Let's not talk about that.
Let's not make it a politics show. Have you voted? Don't say who you voted for, but have you voted? Or are you doing it on the day?
I'll get back to you on that.
Okay. Well, moving on before it gets too political. We're going to talk about Barak Thryng. So before we do, is there any news?
Yes. Broken Realms.
Yeah.
There's. It seems like the narrative books do have some match play contents. There's just 5 battalions and 3 allegiances for Stormcast because they needed it desperately.
Of course they did.
There's Cities of Sigmar battalion, I believe, all centered around Anvilgard and what used to be Dark Elves and now has weird names. So there's hope for other battalions for cities, so more dwarf battalions, hopefully. Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
But it looks like everyone's getting something out of it. So far we have Chaos, we have Cities, Daughters of Cain, Idoneth.
Daughters of Cain.
So if it goes along the same route as Psychic Awakening books for 40k, I think across the next half a year maybe, we'd expect some rules for everyone, which is cool.
Yeah.
One of the interesting things... Sorry, go ahead, Con.
I'd say the most interesting thing about this being, if this is Psychic Awakening, Psychic Awakening gave little rules to everyone, but at the end of Psychic Awakening, there was 9th edition. Will at the end of Broken Realms, will there be 3rd edition? That could be interesting.
I don't know.
Before I was going to say, what's interesting about Idoneth is they get new war scrolls.
Yes. For 3 or 4 war scrolls, the 2 Eidolons, the tsunami wave heroes, beautiful scopes. I heard not so good rules. the Alopex, the sharks, and the turtles, Leviathans. So to make them hopefully more viable, so we see some variation in lists. It could also mean that in the winter FAQ we see a point raise to eels. Maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
So they adjust the points before Christmas, and now they give better rules to the other ones.
Yeah.
Could
Looks
be.
like Morthy's getting new rules as well, in such a way that she can have both of her selves at the same time on the table.
Yeah, 2 war scrolls rather than 1.
Sounds fun.
I don't know if the old one will still be usable as well because they're 2 new ones. So
Probably not.
What's interesting is they're doing different things for different armies, which I quite like because they're doing what's needed rather than just setting a blanket. Right, we're going to do this, and whether it works or not, it's nice that they're going to tailor it.
Well, we don't know if it's needed because I don't know if Slaves to Darkness needed a all chariot battalion. Need it not. It's cool. I'd play it.
Slaves of Darkness is all over the place. They got good stuff, and then they got nerfed, and then they got good stuff, and then Marauders are still really good.
The beauty of Chaos is just that you can combine so many. Basically, it's 5-6 books that you can combine. Slaves to Darkness, Wrath of the Everchosen, and then the 4 Gods books.
I don't think they need help, personally.
So, not help, but it's cool. Variation. The more varied lists you see, the more interesting it gets.
Yeah. If it helps internal balance rather than making the already good lists better, then that's always a good thing.
Yeah.
Like, the IDK stuff doesn't look like it's going to buff eels, so that's good.
It buffs or it centers around Achillean, and the eels are Achillean. So I don't know.
Yeah,
maybe
there might be another buff to eels.
Maybe they went, we made this fantastic thing. You can play all your sharks and turtles, and in the end, it's even better for eels.
That'd be pretty bad.
That'd be GW style.
Yeah.
There was a rumor engine a while ago for Fire Slayers, talking about Urgold. So there might be a new Fire Slayer, model sometime soon, which is more relevant to Barak Thryng, because if we get something like an Avatar Grimnir or something, that's not.
Quick game.
Is Avatar Grimnir already, but
quick game. What would you want from Fire Slayers to go in Barak Thryng that they don't have?
They need some sort of monster.
A shooting unit.
They have a shooting unit.
They have a good.
We don't need more shooting units. We have access to the best shooting units.
Yeah.
They
have Thunder as
monstrous
light.
infantry.
Cavalry would be cool. I don't know if we need it for Barak Thryng, but it would
They
be
have
cool.
Magmadross or cavalry.
No, like a unit of cavalry rather than a hero. Like mini Magmadross, or like a whole unit, like 3 of them.
That is something that Fire Slayer players are wishing for ages, like a cavalry. But as it would be cool to have, I don't want it. Because then Fire Slayers has everything. They have Anvil, which is also Hammer, good foot troops, you have Hordes, then you have Cavalry, and you have a monster. So and Prayers. So basically you have everything.
The monsters suck, though. Magmadross can't go toe-to-toe with anything else. Except maybe
no, they're horde killer monsters.
Maybe a mega Magmadross then. 400 point.
I'd prefer something like a small, like the Luminous Cow, like a golem or a rogue idol style.
Yeah, the freaking the thing that they have that's actually an endless prayer.
The Magmac Invocation.
An actual unit. Yeah, the invocation needs to be a unit. It's not doing anything. No one ever takes
it. Big magma monster.
Let me check what it's called. Big magma monster is called the Molten Inferno.
There's already a sculpt. Just change the rules. Make it an actual unit.
Yeah. Stop making the heroes invisible. Well, we're going to change them. Anyway, bring it back to KO. What I like is that it potentially means that Brock could get a new war score.
Or we have. It doesn't seem they're getting new models unless there's a box, like a 2-army box, like the new Daughters of Cain against Slanesh. They have two new heroes, the Snake Lady and the Daddy or Lever Daddy guy. So for example, the I don't know if they're getting a new named character, but it's basically the old sculpt. So I believe either they make a named Endry Master, because we already have a chemist that's named Endry Master on foot, maybe a named one who goes in a boat and does special things in a boat. Because I don't think we'll see an army box, because we just had one a year ago.
Yeah.
No, but they could do new war scrolls. Or
war scrolls, yes.
So
like named versions, like the Fire Slayer, Runefather, the named one, Belgrimnir is basically the Runefather on Magma. Yeah. It's the same one. Just
I was totally going to say that.
Yeah.
But they can just, they're showing with IDK, they can just replace war scrolls. So they can just.
But they already did that for Kharadron.
Yeah, but they did it wrong with Brock. They did it wrong with Brock, so they need to do it again. Keep going until you get it right.
They did it wrong with Thunderers in the first place.
Yeah, I remember that. But so, that was to get rid of our 20 36-inch range mortar shots. That then turned to 40, and then 60 20-inch range mortar shots, and then it got ridiculous.
No one's going to complain if you change Brock's war scroll now. So,
no,
mortar needs something. You already locked the 1 to 4.
But what if we got a named boat? We've got a boat that's a named character that you can take as a hero.
Boaty McBoatface. Little Gunhauler that's named, and it shoots torpedoes.
The mighty Cephalon, sorry, I know he said Cephalon, which is a completely different thing, says he hopes the answer to every question in Barak Thryng is just more magma drops. I don't think there's any of the lists we have to show, I'm afraid.
I like his thinking, though.
Not a bad idea to run 2 magmas, 2 rune suns in this army.
Yeah.
Because we don't have horde clear in KO necessarily.
Ooh, do I have a solution for you?
Yes, there's another solution to that.
And it's cheap.
180 points.
Okay. Well, it's not as fun. This is mortal wounds. Those do not do mortal wounds.
They do?
Yeah.
Once per game?
Yeah, you're right, actually.
Coach, there's a delay. Like I get the chat on my phone quicker than I do on here for some reason. Coach says new Gunhauler hero, Zippy McBoat. Not sure about the name, but I know Gunhauler hero.
Make it happen.
Yeah.
Make it happen. As long as your opponent's okay with it, you can just play it.
Yeah.
140 points KO hero boat.
Okay, let's get to the
Let's go on to Barak Thryng. Yeah. Before we do, I do have one point I want to make, which is if anyone is watching that watched the Barak Zon show a couple of weeks ago, in that show we talked about the artifact, I think it is, that lets you heal when you're slain, and we said that it doesn't work on mortal wounds. Since then, I've had some chats with people about it, and basically it's not so hard and fast. Like there's a little bit of some people interpret it different ways.
All right.
So I've looked into it further, and I still think it does. I still don't think it works on mortal wounds. So yeah, that's the way I think. But there's not. I don't think there's a solid. I don't think it's like cut and dry. So if you interpret it the other way, then you might want to check that with your TO, because I don't think it's right. Like I don't think it's obvious the way it works. And there's a whole problem with mortal wounds and wounds where they always, Games Workshop rules, isn't it? So when they mix up damage and wounds and all sorts of all over the place, don't they? So yeah, I just wanted to clarify that because I kind of want
to clarified it by making it more convoluted.
Yes, basically. But I just wanted to say it's not cut and dry. Like I don't want people to go, well, Aethercast said this, so it must be this.
Do they ever?
Yeah, probably not, because not many people watch the show. But if there's an element of doubt on it. That's what I wanted to make clear. So, I would urge people to just play it so it doesn't work on mortal wounds, because unless you've got confirmation otherwise, because at least you're erring on the side of caution there rather than accidentally cheating. Which is always, and do the same with bent plates. Just while we're there. Because that's been discussed in Facebook again. But yeah, let's move on. Let's look at the rules for Thryng, because we're talking about Zon at the moment, which is wrong. So, okay, so Barak Thryng is, how would we describe them? They're the
ultra conservative Duardin.
Yeah,
it says
the old school ones, basically. They like the old ways. So
the conservative longbeards.
Yes, the Tories. So they get a number of different abilities. I want to keep the elephant in the room to the last one, which is the one about the 1 in 4 units. So let's start with Incredibly Stubborn, which is if a friendly Skyfarer's model is slain while it is within 3 inches of an enemy unit, roll a dice on a 4+, that model can fight before it's removed from play.
Such a shame that it's limited to Skyfarers and not Barak Thryng.
That would be kind of broken, to be perfectly honest. It'd be absolutely ridiculous.
It's a full plot.
Yeah, so it's 50-50.
It's only 50-50. It's not always. That'd be better.
Yeah.
Okay. It's okay. It's good. It's a good rule. It's okay.
Yeah. It's quite good. What was I going to say? One thing to note is it says while within 3 inches of an enemy unit. It doesn't say slain by. It doesn't say in the combat phase or slain by a melee weapon. So if you get shot but you're still within 3 inches, then you can still fight. Or if you get killed by a spell or something, still works. Or if you run away from battle shock because you count as slain.
That's a big one. That's a funny one.
That's a squig hard one.
The old flight and fight response.
Yeah. I'm going to punch you and then run away. Basically, punch you with my gun butt.
On a 4+.
Yeah, on a 4+. Maybe I will, which is quite good. Because,
I'll try to punch you.
That fits with the cowardly idea of running away from battle shock.
Yeah.
What else do they have? They have the Chronicle Grudges, which is after armies are set up, but before the first battle round begins, you can pick up to 3 different enemy units. So you will just pick 3, because why would you not pick 3? And you can reroll hit rolls of 1 for attacks made by friendly Barak Thryng units that target those units.
So there's a weird thing about this one, where I don't know if you can pick units that aren't on the field. The same way that you can't pick with Be'lakor for Be'lakor's ability if things are in deep strike or reserves.
It doesn't say on the battlefield.
Yeah, it says after setup. Setup's just a timestamp. Setup's done. Now you pick enemy units. Doesn't matter where they are.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I remember I was playing against a Null Deploy Cities of Sigmar list, and they had 3 units on the field. And I was like, okay, well, none of these are ones I care about. So that was not fun to play test against.
No, but I think you can pick ones off the field. You obviously can't pick things that are summoned in, because they're not in the army yet. But
they're not part of the army.
Yeah, as long as they in the army list, I think you can pick them. This is quite good, I think. It's a command ability for 3. Well, 3 every turn for all of your units.
Exactly. It's a solid. It's a solid good thing. A good article. Yeah. One of the better ones. I'd
it's
argue.
What they had in the old book that everyone complained, because in the old book it was D3. And then everyone said, well, if it was 3, it would be good. D3, it was not good.
Well, now it is 3.
Yeah, so now it's good. We're going to skip the next one because I want to do that one last. They have a footnote, which works in a similar way to all the other footnotes, which means it's once per battle. And it's at the start of your shooting phase or a combat phase, you can pick 1 friendly Barak Thryng unit. Until the end of that phase, unmodified hit rolls of 6 for attacks made by that unit score 2 hits on the target instead of 1, and then you make a wound and save roll for each hit.
So interesting. It's your shooting or any combat. So you can do it in enemy combat phase 2. And it's basically exploding 6s.
Yep.
Once per game. It's good, best on units that do have a lot of attacks.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it works on the allied units as well, which is
exactly
the
Barak
important
Thryng.
thing here.
Same as the article,
Yeah.
So not allied, but allied. Yeah.
So with both the footnote and the article that we just discussed, the important thing is the Barak Thryng keyword, which we'll come back to in a minute, as opposed to the first ability, which was Skyfarers.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I really like about this footnote is you can stack it with something like your Aether Gold if you're not using it on, a Duardin unit or something. So, not only can you reroll fail hits, then that means that you're more likely to get your 6s. So they multiply.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can use it with, the unit to target a unit that you're rerolling ones against.
Because the gold is reroll hits, not failed hits.
Yeah, although you might not want to reroll.
So you could go fishing for 6s.
If you have some sort of situation where you have 2-ups, which there are some ways to do this, then you could go 6 fishing with every single dice you rolled, and probably go positive.
There's one little guy that he comes with that ability anyway. So
yeah,
but it works good on him.
You can force through negative modifiers to hit. If you're -2 to hit, then you just force through with re-rolls and exploding 6s.
Because 6 always hit,
or if
then they multiply.
Yeah, or if you want to really clear out just a massive high wound unit, then just stack it with all your buffs.
You have to kill 100 wounds of pinks. This is the way to do it.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's a good ability, but it's once per battle, so it's not necessarily something you want to build around too much. Like you kind of want to have a unit that can capitalize on it, but you don't want to go, well, yeah, I've got this really good combo that costs 1,000 points because you're only going to do it once.
Yeah, but it's solid.
Yes, very good. And then the next 2 things are hero related because so one of them is a command trait, which is supremely stubborn. When you use the incredibly stubborn ability, which has a different wording there to the name, doesn't make sense. Yes, it does. Sorry, I'm getting confused. Yeah. Anyway, when you use the incredibly stubborn ability for this general, you can fight on a roll of 2+ instead of 4+. So that's referring back to the first ability we mentioned, which is when you're slain.
Mm-hmm.
So that would work with pretty much just don't make a chemist or a navigator general. Should be able to get some good hits in with the dirigible Endlin Master, normal Endlin Master, Admiral if you really wanted to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's an interesting thing about this where it's keyworded to Barak Thryng, which it didn't really need to be.
No, because named heroes cannot get any command traits anyway.
Yeah.
Because the only reason could have been Brock, because he's keyworded Barak Nar.
Yeah.
And I don't know what Bjorgen Fundrik is.
He would be keyworded Barak Nar.
He's named.
Is he also from Nar?
And he's unique as well anyway, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean...
Yeah, but he's also Barak Nar. It incentives, a hero that can actually do something when they fight to be your general. So,
and then in situations where you're using this, you typically want to fight first before, you can charge your hero into something that might kill him. If you fight first, then you die and you fight again, it basically doubles your attacks for a turn.
Yeah. It's basically a double activation for 2+, so or they don't kill you, in which case, you're
exactly.
high.
Or you're standing next to somebody and then you get them down to, you're fighting a keeper of secrets, you're down to 1 health, and then he's arcane bolts you on his turn. You fight in his turn, right?
Yeah,
you kill him in his hero phase.
Yeah, which is especially if they do that spell at the beginning. That's the first spell they cast, and they got 4 spells they want to cast with the same hero, and they're like, I'll do this one first just to get rid of you. Oh, fine. Okay.
Exactly. Yeah, no, there's situations where this has come up before.
So bear in mind the one we just said for the next thing, which is an artifact of power, must be given to a Barak Thryng Skyfarer hero, which is important. It's called the Grudge Hammer. You pick one of the bearer's melee weapons and you add one to hit rolls for attacks made by that weapon. In addition, if the unmodified wound roll for an attack made by that weapon that targets an enemy unit which was picked for the Chronicle of Grudges article is 6, that attack inflicts D3 mortal wounds on the target in addition to any normal damage. So I'm going to unpack that a bit because anyone listening who hasn't read that before might be like, "What?"
So it can't be taken on it must be taken on a Skyfarer unit, which means no dirigible Endon Masters.
No, yeah, it can be.
They are Skyfarer. They're not Marine, but they are Skyfarer.
Marine, yeah.
All foot KO. Yeah. All dwarf KO units are Skyfarer units.
Yeah, it's interesting that they've actually used the Skyfarer keyword because we don't have any heroes that aren't Skyfarers. It's almost
I think we might get a hero boat.
Yes,
it all adds up now.
Yeah.
Look, it's coming. It's coming.
Yeah.
We know it. It's in a book.
But this is doing a couple of different things. First of all, it's giving you +1 to hit, which is
awesome.
All the time.
On the heroes that hit on 3s, now they hit on 2s, rerolling 1s.
Especially since they normally wound on 2s. So you go from 3s and 2s to 2s and 2s.
And rerolling 1s.
Probably rerolling 1s. And then it references the Chronicle of Grudges ability, which is the one where you get to pick 3 units to reroll 1s against. So if you're targeting one of those units and your wound roll is a 6, then you do D3 mortal wounds as well as your normal damage.
So a 40% chance.
So
a little bit less. Because you have 3 attacks, 2s and 1s, 2 rerolling 1s, then on a 2, 3 attacks, let's say 3 go through, on a 2, 1, 6. Yeah. Okay.
The best units there. So the units that get the most out of this are ones that have a 3 up to hit, like you said, which are pretty much only the Engine Master. Both versions of the Admiral already hits on 2s and 2s pretty much when he gets his you can use his command ability to go from 3 to. I guess you could save the CP, but there's no reason not to because you're buffing everybody in the boat.
And you don't need to spend your CPs on rerolling 1s to hit in shooting because you're already doing that with your whole army.
The Admiral doesn't need to because he's already using. In the Admiral situation, he already rerolls 1s to hit and wound. I think, right?
If he's in a boat.
Yeah, but what I mean is he doesn't need to spend his CPs on other units for them to reroll 1s to hit because they're likely going to be targeting those 3 units anyway.
Yeah.
So when you say, you don't really need to save the CP, well, yeah.
Well, CP gives him +1 to hit. That's what I was saying.
Yeah.
He has a native 3 up, 2 up, as well as the other 2 melee lords. The thing here though, it's cool is that the hero that gets the most out of this, I think, is the Foot Master with harness. Because if you roll a 6 when you're hitting, with any of those 3 attacks, and you're doing 3 mortal wounds. If you roll a 6 on any of the wounds, you're getting D3 mortal wounds in addition to normal damage. So you're just getting so much out of this one guy.
Yeah. Although
are his hit in addition or just it stops?
Hit's not in addition, so it stops.
So,
but then you get less dice to roll for a wound.
Yeah. But
which decreases your chance.
But you've got one hero that has got a very good. He's got 6, potentially 6 dice to do mortal wounds on. Is what Carl's saying, I think. But yeah, the other point is if he gets his first ability off, then you don't get the chance of the mortal wounds on the wound rolls.
And these less points.
Yeah. But let's circle back round to the ability we skipped because it's probably the one thing that gives Barak Thryng the most flavour. One of the most important ones, which is take help where you can get it. 1 in 4 units in your army can be a Duardin, and that's keyworded, unit that does not have the Kharadron Overlords keyword. those units gain the Barak Thryng keyword. They cannot be the army general and do not count towards the number of battle line units in the army.
But they still are battle line.
Yes, so
For the purpose of missions and such.
Exactly.
Right?
That's
They
I
don't
it.
didn't
count
actually know
towards-
that. That's a pretty big deal.
They don't count
Yeah.
towards the number in your army when in terms of army selection, but in the same way as allies, which they don't count to. Oh, who do we lose, Max?
That's huge.
Oh.
I never realized that. That makes
Yeah.
my list so much better.
Yeah. Although I remember we've had this conversation before in Discord, and you said the same thing. Oh, that makes my army so much better.
Oh, did I? Okay.
Yeah, you
I
just
guess maybe I have
forgot.
short-term memory. I don't know. That's
Yeah,
huge.
Yeah, it's really good. Because in some missions where only battle line units can count towards holding objectives, and that means they're still battle line.
Mhm.
So,
And
there's
leaders
not-
are still leaders.
yeah. Unlike the allies rule, there's not actually an FAQ confirming that, but it's worded the same.
We can infer it off of the Allies rule,
Yeah,
basically.
it's worded the same way, so there's no reason for it to not work that way. Plus, the whole point of this rule is that they can be included in your army and be more a part of your army than allies.
Mhm.
So there's no reason for them to have that extra restriction. Plus, if they wanted it to be that thing, then they would say that they are no longer can no longer have the battle line battlefield role as opposed to count towards a number. So important thing about this is they can't be the general, which is why I said about the command trait having the Barak Thryng keyword didn't really matter much, because if they can't be your general, then they can't have the command trait. So
Yeah, and they cannot be KO, so you cannot give Brock different keyword.
Yeah, so it doesn't really make any difference, that one having the Barak Thryng keyword. But in terms of abilities, it means that they don't get the 4+ fight when they die, but they can get the reroll ones. They also can use the footnote for the once per game exploding sixes. And they can't have the artifact of power. They can have artifacts of power because they're not allies, but they really only have choice of the realm ones, because the one for the allegiance references the Skyfarer keyword, which only KO have, and all the other ones in the KO book are specific.
Are very specific to the specific characters.
Yeah, so they only have access to the realm ones. So this rule, let's move on a slide. There we go, to what you can actually take. There's a lot of stuff. I'm not going to read them all out.
We're going to
you forgot the most important units that you can take.
No.
Yes,
Okay,
you did.
you say it, and I'll
The
tell
Hell
you what
Cannon.
you can't.
The Hell Cannon.
You cannot. It's legends.
It's legends. So unless you have your opponent's permission, which no tournament, like in a tournament situation, you can't. Because they're legends now.
That's not
Can't
fun.
play my Chaos Dwarves and
Nah. First of all, you don't. Second, they're legends, so get out of it.
Yeah, but basically you have access to everything in Fire Slayers. And
Yes.
then so let's talk about the Fire Slayers ones before we move on. The standout picks from there. What do we think?
definitely the Hearthguard Bezerkers, 100%. The Rune Smiter is always good if you're taking one of these battle line, or not battle line, but like one of these heavy cost point effect, because they can give you deep strike on an infantry that normally KO cannot do. Like we
Especially
can't
not
deep
Barak
strike
Thryng. Because we can't put multiple models in places, because if you fly high the boat somewhere, you can't get out until the next turn. So
yeah, you can do attack squadron, like move the boats and get out, but that's 10 Arcanaut. And this gives you 30 Vulkites Bezerkers.
Yeah.
Boom, 60
Can the
wounds
runes-
on a 4+ save.
Can the Rune Smiter deep strike the boats?
No, he can
No,
only do a fire
friendly
slayer.
fire slayer, but he can deep strike a magma drop.
Ah,
Yeah.
So what
can-
those
Oh,
guys
yeah.
pull is you could deep strike 30 Ulrich Hearthguard, pop them out, re-rolling the ones and then exploding 6s. You can probably kill some monster like Nagash or Archaon.
Definitely damage 2
Yeah.
on monsters.
I think I did the math on this, and they don't actually doesn't come out favorably compared to Thunderers.
Even if you take all 600 points of them.
Or maybe if you took 600 of them, but then it's
Nah, 1-to-1? No, probably not. But that's not the point necessarily. The thing is that it slows down monsters. So
Yes. On a
if you
4+.
want to do a movement shenanigans sort of game, you drop out, you pop out at 16 inches off of something, you slow everything down, and then you have the rest of your fleet kind of just shooting at them.
yeah, and you take some navigators as well.
Navigators too. I think it double stacks, right?
Yeah,
Yes, it does.
yeah.
It can be
And
really
it
mean to
reduces
somebody.
hits. It gets -1 to hit too from
Yeah.
the molten magma bolts.
Yeah. So yeah, the Rune Smiter, he's a key hero, I think.
Yes.
For the which unit we mentioned? Rough sort of the Orc Hearthguard. Vulkites Bezerkers and Hearthguard Bezerkers are, if you big bodies, lots of bodies.
The Rune Smiter is good in 2 ways. One, he gives you 3 ways. One, he gives you 2 dead drops, the 2 units. You can put them in reserve. You don't need to have anything on the table, like for Stormcast or Nighthaunt. Just do it. He can deep strike, and his War Scroll Prayer is still usable on a 3+. Reroll all wound rolls for shooting and for melee. So now you have, I don't know, let's play a game. 20 Hearthguard Bezerkers with broad axes, hitting on freeze, rerolling 1s, exploding 6s, wounding on freeze, rerolling everything, 1 rend, 2 damage. And 20 of them, they have 2-inch reach, so you might get 15 in range. That's 31 attacks with the boss.
So
Decent.
let's unpack that a little bit. First of all, with the Rune Smiter, he deep strikes in the movement phase.
At the end of the movement phase, they pop up. They need to come in before the 4th round. If not, they're destroyed.
Yeah. So you can't deep strike and then use his prayer because that'll be in the hero phase.
Exactly. Next phase.
The other thing is, I assume that's a Fire Slayer's unit.
Yes.
Fire Slayers only. You can't cast that. Yeah, he didn't say it, but yeah, you can only cast.
Yeah, I just thought. It's fairly obvious, but I just wanted to clarify that.
No, but
be really cool.
To that remark, the deep strike, I would not use it with the Fire Slayer units. Any units to do an alpha attack, because even with the Vulkites, you'll need without any extra help to roll an 8, and then you just sit there, and the Hearthguard need a 9. So I'd rather use it, go on objective, sit on it with your bodies, and then next round, do the prayers. And now, if you attack me, you're getting hurt, or I'm coming for you.
The other really main thing you can do is the thing that people do in Seraphon with 40 skinks, is you drop them right in front of the deployment line, 9 inches off at the beginning of the first turn. And now you have 40 wounds with a 4-up funeral pain that you have to chew through before you can move 9 inches up the board. So you can lock people in their deployment demons.
There's a little problem with that because they need to be set up wholly within 12 of the Rune Smiter. So you cannot do a whole conga line around the whole width of the board, unfortunately.
Well, that's another reason why you take 40 of these.
Yeah.
And 2 Rune Smiters.
2 Rune Smiters, yeah.
You have 24 inches.
Yeah, but that's a lot of points.
Yeah, it is a lot of points.
But no, locking on objective is the best.
Bodies on objective, that's what KO struggles with. So, cool. It's a solution to a problem.
Anything else from Fire Slayers that I think you mentioned before, Max, the Battlesmith?
Yes, because if you don't go the tunneling movement buff, but you just want bodies, then I'd suggest Vulkites with a Battlesmith. sitting on your home objective, 20 of them, that's 40 wounds. They, with shields and the Battlesmith's banner, now they have a 3-up save. Where you do Hearthguard then with a 4-up and 4-up Feel No Pain. But they're more expensive and less bodies.
Yeah.
And they're too expensive to sit them on your home objective.
Okay.
But yeah. So he's solid. He's 20 points more than our Smiter. He has the ability for the +1 save. He can still move afterwards. He can run. He cannot retreat. That's the only downside to it. Well, I have never retreated with any of my Fire Slayers. And when he dies, a unit within range gets to choose to protect the sigil, the banner, or the icon. And they cannot move anymore. Not even pile in. But they get to reroll all hits and all wounds for the rest of the game.
Not being able to pile in is a big deal, though.
Yeah, they're just frozen. If they're on the objective, someone shoots him. You say, okay, they're staying here anyway, whole game. Now they're rerolling everything. Come for me. Yeah. It makes it more difficult.
Okay.
It's a nice to have thing.
Before we move on to Cities of Sigmar, for the mighty Selflon, who obviously loves Magmadroths, if you're going to take a Magmadroth, which one would it be?
2 Rune
Depends.
Suns.
What else are you taking?
2 Rune Suns.
I don't know. Explain to me why.
If it's just one Magmadroth, I'd probably go for the Runefather. Right. Because he's a bit better in combat. If you do the tag team, then 2 Rune Suns because they buff each other. Like they want to outdo each other is their basic rule. They want to be better, like be the favorite son. So if there's another Rune Sun within a certain distance, they do better. I don't play Rune Suns. Basically, no one plays them in Fire Slayers, but they reroll hit.
Boss tag.
They
reroll hits when they're near each other. It gives up to the Magmadroth.
Vying for glory, you can reroll hit rolls for attacks made by the model, so also by the Magmadroth. And Magmadroths are cool because they're basically a destruction. It's a little dragon running around, so people get concerned about it. They don't know that they don't do much damage against big heroes or combat units, but they do a lot of damage against units with large module numbers because they have a shooting attack that does mortal wounds. If they're within 6, it does d6 mortal wounds. The Magmadroth has a lashing tail attack at the end of the combat that does more wounds the more models the enemy has. And no, you cannot give them the impact hit traits in this. But yeah, they're 14 wounds on a 4+ save, so solid.
So the really the best, I think the best rule that Magmadroths have is the bleeding on 4-ups to mortal wounds back, and that's when you allocate wounds to the model.
Yeah, wounds, not mortal wounds, unfortunately.
No. However, allocating wounds to the model, you allocate them when they're dealt. And as far as I've heard this before, where it doesn't matter if you overkill so if you get hit by something that does 40 wounds to you because you got attacked by infantry, then you roll 40 dice regardless of the fact you only had 14 wounds, and on 4-ups you do mortal wounds back.
Well, you allocate wounds one at a time, and then I think you stop once the unit is slain.
It says roll a dice each time a wound is allocated to this model.
Because you allocate wounds after a unit has finished attacking, so you don't, and then you do the allocating wounds is one at a time, and I think you stop once the unit is destroyed.
This was a pretty big deal when the Magmadroths got that new rule, and I remember a lot of people talking about it. I would need to look that up again to double check that, or maybe check with the TO when you do this. But that
I'm going deep into Fire Slayer tactics.
I'm not going to go on the hill on it because I haven't looked into it, but that's just off the top of my head the way I would have thought. I mean, they're definitely done one at a time.
But the question is whether or not you keep going after the thing is dead.
I think Lee's right. You allocate wounds until the wounds are depleted, and then he just dies, and the rest are.
Does it say that somewhere?
I think that's the basic rules of Age of Sigmar, like wound allocating. But on a positive note, the Molten Battering Ram is a command ability on their war score, so they do get D6 impact hits for a CP.
That's pretty good because we don't have anything else for spending CP on usually.
True.
So that's another reason why you take them.
After you move in the charge phase, you can pick one enemy unit within 1 inch. On a 2+, it's D6 mortal wounds. So for a CP, you get a Spar Torpedo. So maybe 2 punch on Magmadroths. Could be interesting, but it's quite some points you spend there.
This distraction effect. But you don't have any monsters cavalry in KO, so that's another thing that they do.
And they move 12 inches, so they're not slow. Usually in Fire Slayers are the fastest thing you have, except tunneling.
Keep up with your boats.
So now you can keep up with boats and heroes and stuff.
Sorry, I'm just reading the rules about this, about the volcanic blood thing. Yeah, so it only talks about it from a model perspective. So once you finish allocating wounds to a model, then it's slain, and then once it's slain, you put it to one side. It doesn't really say too much.
Well, if you allocate wounds until it's slain, then you stop.
Yeah, then you stop allocating wounds. So I would assume that it doesn't.
Yeah, it would make more sense. Interesting thing, Bale Grimnir, which is just a named Runefather Magmadroth. He already has a Vostark keyword. Now he can gain a Barak Thryng keyword too.
Oh yeah.
So you can build if that's something you like to do for your narrative game, a unique hero with two sub-faction keywords.
Yeah.
But he's just a rune father with a 5+ Feel Pain. That's all he gains for 20 points. That's solid. No, actually now it's 30 points more because they lowered the points for the Magmadroths by 10. Another mention maybe for Fire Slayers is the Grimwrath Berserker. Unfortunately, he's not Skyfarer, so if he were, I would give him the Grudge Hammer artifact. But he's quite solid fighting. He has a 6+ Feel Pain, which becomes a 5+ when he's in combat. And at the end of combat phase, he can fight again on a 2+. So 100-point combat hero. If you don't want to tunnel your Hearthguards, he's a beat stick that can still give them the 4+ Feel Pain.
Yeah.
Basically, yeah.
One other thing about the Magmadroths is they are leaders and behemoths. So in quite a few battle plans, that's quite handy because KO don't have anything that's both. We have leaders and we have behemoths, but
we can put our leaders in our behemoths.
Yes, but for scoring and so I mean that for something like places Arcane Power, it's going to be good. For something where you get extra points if you have a behemoth on a objective, it's good. Especially
they're also the only KO heroes that don't die to Croak.
Yeah.
Sorry, not KO heroes. The only Duardin heroes that don't die to Croak.
Yeah.
There's a number one.
Yeah, and
at the end of the list.
On the subject of like behemoths, like in Thryng, you might not necessarily be taking boats or many boats
because you're spending a lot of points on Duardin units.
Yes.
Just a quick correction, very small correction. The Grimwrath Berserker does not have the leader keyword.
Oh, does he not?
He's I think the only one in all of Age of Sigmar. He has a hero. He's a hero, but he's not a leader. He doesn't have the leader role.
The other one also doesn't.
The Doomseeker? I've never played the Doomseeker, honestly.
I just assume.
These two, they don't want to lead, they just want to die. So, But the Doomseeker is just a bad Grimwrath. So
a couple of hours ago, they weren't even on the screen share. So if I made some mistakes, I apologize. Let's move on to Cities of Sigmar.
Yes.
Are you checking the Doomseeker? Or
who, me?
I thought you were. But while you're checking, so Cities of Sigmar, you get
no leader keyword.
No No need to keyword. Okay.
I never looked at it. I looked at his wall score once when the book came, and then I never looked again.
Okay. But we didn't say he was one worth taking anyway. So
No, he's not.
yeah. Cities of Sigma, you get you only get basically the ability is the Duardin keyword. So you get. I mean, it should be obvious to you what's a dwarf and what's not. Basically, the only thing that's maybe not obvious is Gyrocopters and Gyro bombers.
But there's a dwarf sitting inside flying it.
Yeah. Not obvious in the sense that you look at it and go, "Oh, well, it's a short dude." He's like that stumpy leg dude. So basically, it comes down to what used to be Dispossessed and Ironworld Arsenal, except for
the dwarf part of Ironworld Arsenal, which in the old base used to be dwarves.
Yeah. So there's quite a few choices here. Let's look at the Dispossessed stuff first. What do we think is one of the key things here?
It depends what you want to do. What are you looking to do? Are you looking for bodies to hold something? Then I'd suggest some support heroes. Are you looking to deal damage? Or are you looking to clear hordes? I can tell you what I will not take. That's
for pure damage. Yeah, not really.
He doesn't do anything. He just he heals Cities of Sigma war machines, which you're not taking, like steam tanks, and he doesn't keep up with them anyway. So, he can repair the human rocket launchers and the other Hellfire cannon, which you're not taking. So he's 60 points, but he's useless in this. Since we don't have the dwarf cannon and organ gun anymore, he's useless.
I'd say top pick for just dealing damage is hammerers. Hammerers do a lot of damage.
If paired with the correct
with 2 attacks, 3s and 3s, neg 1, damage 1.
Mortal wounds and a 6 to wound.
I think you need. Yeah. So they can get a lot of attacks in, and they're on small bases, so you can get a lot of them to fight. And with the Rend 1, I think one of the Warden King gives them an additional Rend 1.
No, the Rune Lord has a prayer. The Rune Lord has a prayer which gives them an additional Rend on the 2+.
The Rune Lord, right.
The Rune Lord, so Rend 2. The Warden King, if he's within 18 inch of a unit that they're attacking at the start of the combat phase, he has a command ability. He says, I grudge you, and all dispossessed units gain an attack against that unit. So now they have 3 attacks. Friesend. Now you pair them with Longbeards, who grumble for reroll 1s to wound. Now, if they're within 12 of the Longbeards, they reroll 1s to wound too. They reroll 1s to hit. So you can build something strong, but the problem with hammers that I found also in my cities list is keeping them alive until they go in to deal the damage, because they only have a 4+ save. They are battle shock immune around the dispossessed hero, so that's good, but if they get charged, they don't.
I have a solution for that, but we can get to that when we get to on my list.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Teasing us.
The other thing, Longbeards, they're grumbling. That affects Duardin, doesn't it?
No,
just dispossessed.
But they can do it on themselves, which is help handy. So and they're really cheap.
They are cheap. You get 30 for 240.
Yeah.
Now on their battle line, they keep the battle line roll. So they can grumble. They have 3 things they can do. Reroll 1s to wound, which is what you take most of the time. They can do this in the hero phase, not at the start of the hero phase. They can try to dispel an endless spell. So you could cast an endless spell start of hero phase, or before in the hero phase, and then they can still try to dispel the same, but they don't get any buffs to do it. And the third one is +1 bravery in an aura, which I've never used because dispossessed usually have a good bravery, like 7 and 8. Iron. If you want something a bit more defensive for 30 points more, you get 30 Iron Breakers who have an extra attack, and they come with a built-in 3+ save. The Longbeards only have the 3+ save if you equip them with shields in melee. Against shooting, they only have a 4+. And the Iron Breakers always have a 3+ save.
The Iron Breakers are basically Longbeards on steroids, or better armor or something.
Better armor, but without the buff capabilities.
Yeah. They're both basically defensive picks. Or
Small base, 30 models that you stick on but the problem with them is always they have nothing against mortals.
You can give them 6 of Feel No Pain.
Yeah.
So the thing is, in our army, you're comparing them 20 points more from 10 Arcanauts. Arcanauts have a ranged attack. They can reroll saves.
Yeah.
There's a really close comparison here. It's more of a question of whether or not you wanted to take multiple of them. So rather than taking MSUs of Iron Breakers, you can take 30 Iron Breakers for, what is that, 100 and...
270.
270. So the same as 30 Arcanauts. No, wait, that's not the same. Yes, it is.
Yeah, 9 times 3 is...
it's the same as 30 Arcanauts then.
Yeah,
okay,
it's exactly the same. They have a 3+, Arcanauts have a 4+, 1/3 rolling. They have 9-inch shooting. The Iron Breakers have 2 attacks in melee, which you can then buff in various ways with the heroes. But they're slower, 4-inch, and they don't get teleported around unless you use a bridge or something.
Still very cost effective though. You could take 2 or 3 units of these and still fit inside your Barak Thryng.
Yeah, so if you had Longbeards in your list and you had 30 points spare or 40 points spare, would you upgrade them to Iron Breakers?
I did. I had points spared, but the thing is, if you're buffing other dispossessed units, the Longbeards are just better.
Yeah, you maybe lose a Triumph bid as well if you do that.
Yeah.
Which could be handy.
Maybe honorable mention the Iron Drakes. Their shooting is good. It's comparable to Thunderers if they stand still and there's no enemy within 3 inches.
It's probably stronger than Thunderers.
It's 16 inches instead of 18.
Yeah.
It's freeze and freeze instead freeze and force. 1 rend, 1 damage. The hero, the sergeant gets a troll hammer, grudge torpedo, whatever it's called, which has 2 rend, deals D3 damage. If he hits a monster, it deals D6 damage. So there's an argument for MSU Iron Drake units to get more of those torpedoes to deal D6 damage. If you roll a 6, you get 2. Already you have 2 shots. If they stand still, if you roll a 6 on one of them, they get another shot with the torpedo. So could be good.
The trouble with Iron Drakes and basically all of this stuff is the 4-inch movement.
Yes.
So when you compare it to the KO stuff, like if you compare it to Thunderers, well, you can teleport the Thunderers inside the ship and shoot wherever you want. Whereas the Iron Drakes, if you want to move them around, you need to take a battalion and then take the bridge, and it gets very expensive.
No, welcome to the world of Dispossessed. That's how you play dwarves. 4-inch move. You're just spoiled with your boats.
Yeah,
that's how you play Fire Slayers. That's how you used to play Dispossessed. That's how you play Cities. Okay, not Tempest either.
But if you came here to play KO, then
you came here for the real Duardin experience. The real experience is the 4-inch move. The tedious. I'm taking 3 rounds to get to that objective, and no one's stopping me. I'm just going head through the wall, but I'm going slow.
But the cool thing is that 50% of your army still has fly high or some sort of crazy mobility. So by being KO, you pressure your opponent to move forward. By taking Dispossessed, you can take whatever they throw at you. So you can play this army with a lot of Cities of Sigmar that just sit in your own side of the board. It doesn't matter if they have 4-inch move because they're coming to you. Problem with usually playing Cities of Sigmar is that you need to go to them. You don't need to go to them in this army because they're coming to you because they have to, or you can just shoot them.
Yeah. So the thing is with the Iron Drakes is people normally want to take them for an offensive reason, which is so that potentially. Whereas with the Longbeards and the Ironbreakers, not so much the hammers unless you want to use them for like a counter charge thing. Then they can fill that role as the Iron Drakes.
Sure.
Yeah, you for 30 points less, you could just have.
So Iron Drakes are well spent if they just stand behind your wall of Iron Breakers. Because they come with a 4-up save, 3-up against shooting, so rather safe.
Yeah.
They can just stand behind, like 4 inches behind your wall of Longbeards and Iron Breakers, and then whatever charges into them gets shot.
Yeah.
So it's a threat. You don't want to come over here. This is my castle. It's how dwarves used to play. You build a castle of Iron Breakers and Clan Warriors, and you have your cannons behind and shoot around. Now the cool thing in Barak Thryng, your cannons can fly.
Oh,
so you're playing less KO,
tactics,
but you're playing dwarves with more mobility. That's Barak Thryng basically. If you're doing the dispossessed Cities of Sigmar route, which is cool, awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, do we agree that to try and use them offensively ends up being too expensive?
Yes.
Yeah.
So then you're better off in Tempest Eye. But you can make Iron Drakes very obnoxious. So you can make them reroll ones to hit from the ability here. So they hit on freeze. You can give them a reroll ones to wound from Longbeards. You can give them exploding 6s once per shooting phase, or once per battle in a shooting phase. And they have 2 shots if they don't move. So 20 already have 40 shots with exploding 6s. That's another 7 or 8. You can give them additional Rend, so they have Rend 2, and then 1 damage, and the torpedo has D3 or D6 damage, depending what you hit. So they can do more damage than 20 Thunderers, but it's a bit similar.
More
cost.
point setup, less resource intensive.
Yeah. So you need to do a lot of buffing and doing, but that's a nice thing with Dispossessed. Also in cities, the Dispossessed do work well with each other. They do buff each other.
There's a lot of
They buff each other a lot.
Yeah.
Especially compared to KO, which other than being able to move stuff around, there's actually quite limited synergy in some ways in terms of increasing your damage output. There's obviously other synergies.
So
go down that rabbit hole.
Maybe another reason to include the Rune Lord, also what we did not mention, is he can unbind and dispel once per hero phase, and he gets a +2 on that roll.
Yeah.
And for 90 points to get a +2 unbind and dispel is good in any KO army, I think. Yeah. It's a valid choice, 90.0.
Yeah. So with the 2 heroes, would you agree that the Rune Lord is something you could just put in and not take anything else, whereas the Warden King is something that you take specifically to buff units?
Because he's not as good as a melee hero as we already have. He's slow, especially if he stands on his Oath Stone to give out 18-inch bubble of Battleshock immunity to Dispossessed. Then he's not moving. He can still be teleported though. But yeah, he's there for if you have hammers and Iron Breakers that you want to hold the line with or counter attack. Give an extra attack. And he's not bad in combat. But okay. He maybe survives 1 combat round. Yeah.
So let's talk about the Ironworld Arsenal side of things. We briefly mentioned the Cogsmith. Rubbish.
Not worth it.
Unless you wanted a very, very cheap hero just to sit somewhere, maybe. But
yeah, cheap leader. You have 60 points somewhere. But, I don't
know. So really, it's Gyrocopters and Gyrobombers. I prefer Gyrocopters, I think.
Gyrocopters are just a banger deal. You get 3 of them for 180 points. They have 4 wounds each on a 4+ save. They move 14 inches, so faster than a Gunhauler. If you take groups of 3, go for the steam cannon, which is fantastic to clearing hordes. So this is an alternative, much cheaper to Magmadross, because they have a rule that they get as many attacks as models are within 8 inches. That's the range of the steam cannon. So if you have 3 Gyrocopters and they come on a 50mm base, I think it is.
Yeah,
so it's not big. It's not big, and the model's quite small. So you stand them all next to your 40 Marauders or 40 Skinks, 3 inches away, 8 inches, so whatever covers the remaining 5 inches. You get a lot of models in there. That many attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 4s, 1 rend, 1 damage. So you can get up to 60, 80, whatever, how many attacks, if you manage to position them well.
And
that's just number of dice that you roll.
And in Barak Thryng, they could be re-rolling 1s, and they could be having exploding hits.
And exploding 6s on 90 dice. Ooh.
Yeah. You're going to get something.
You're going to delete something. Those Marauders are going to go poof in Steam. And it's 180 points. And if you face someone who doesn't have hordes, it's 12 wounds that move 14 and just hit on an objective.
And it's only 180 points of your army.
Yeah, they just, who cares? If they shoot them, okay, then they shot 180 points and you didn't shoot your valuable stuff.
Mm-hmm.
If not, they're just harassing, maybe capturing an objective, end of game. Or you send them in and they, with 14-inch move, they're probably going to get within range first turn if you give away first or second turn at least.
Yeah.
Those 40 skinks going to go poof. Mm-hmm. And it's not melee, so they cannot, it's not a charge. They cannot retreat and shoot and do mortal wounds and whatever these skinks do these days.
Very good point.
They just go poof.
Cost effective.
They just go poof, poof, back to the skies wherever those skinks came from. Yeah. So yeah, I'd love them. I'm trying to build lists actually also in other sub-factions because you can ally them in. Mm-hmm. To stick them in, because that's something I personally with the lists I play have struggled is hordes or numbers on the boards with KO, because it is a lot. They soak up a lot of shooting, those hordes. Mm-hmm. Just a number of wounds they bring.
There's a lot of wounds in a horde.
This is a nice little solution. Mm-hmm. Plus they have another extra little ability. Once per game they can drop bombs. So if they fly over a unit, each model from the Gyrocopters unit that moved over 1 model from the enemy unit on I think it's a 2+, they deal D3 mortal wounds. So if you have a unit of 3, it's basically like the Hurricanum shot ability. You roll 3 dice on a 2+, each one deals D3 mortal wounds. So that's maybe you want to finish off the remaining that did not die from your steam cannons, or you just want to kill that hero that's being annoying you. Mm-hmm. You can deal like 5, 6, 7 mortal wounds once per game. That comes up. It's handy
as well. So, like, if you wanted to retreat them out of somewhere, then they can do that damage.
They can even pile in and do it.
Yeah, okay.
They can pile in and kill the hero that hasn't been activated yet.
Well, that's interesting. I didn't know about that.
Yeah, it's any move.
So wait, is it when you pass over a model when you?
So I can read that. Once per battle, after this unit has made a. I know it says normal move. My bad.
Okay.
Make a normal move. Pick 1 enemy unit and roll 1 dice for each model in this unit that passed across any models from that enemy unit. For each 2+, that enemy unit suffers D3 mortal wounds.
Yeah,
so it's like a Fire Phoenix, kind of.
I mean, even if it wasn't
still
move, it wouldn't work probably with piling in. It maybe in a very niche scenario it could with a pile in, but you've got to pass over them, and when you pile in,
but it doesn't.
So you can't go over them back again.
I remember that wrong. I thought it was just a move, but still, nonetheless, you can snipe out that little hero, just fly over something that people didn't expect.
Yeah.
So they can do damage to single units, like single model units, and it can do a lot of damage to horde units.
But doing some damage in the movement phase in a shooting army is quite good, because if you've got, say, let's say you got a unit of 12 Skyriggers that are all shooty, and they're tagged with they all like there's a depleted enemy unit. You just fly over them, and then all of a sudden your 12 Skyriggers can shoot something else. Or,
Pretty big deal.
Yeah. And retreating onto an objective, but still
Retreat onto objective.
and still
It's
do
a
damage
move.
to the thing you're in combat with is good.
Yeah, and they have actually they have a 16-inch move.
Because they're getting faster.
Even better. Why did I think 14? Oh, 16. Much faster. That's
Most
even better.
cavalry are 14.
Does anyone have any love for the
No, it's not true.
for the bombers?
The bombers basically they come with an extra wound. They have only a 12-inch move, so that's my problem with them. They do the bombs every time they move on a 2+ D3 mortal wounds, but and they have just a 20-inch range shot, 4 attacks, 4s and 3s, 1 rend, 1 damage. So okay, it's 20-inch, but the 12-inch move makes it much more difficult to drop the bombs. I think the base size is the same. The model itself is a little larger, longer, but
I don't think they're offering much to your army that you don't have elsewhere.
no, they're like they can do mortal wounds each.
They have
movement
slightly
around.
longer range guns.
Yeah, 20-inch, much longer range, but only 4 shots. So
they can do. They consider that range and just pelter shots, but then it's not like we're lacking for things that consider long range and pelter shots.
Exactly,
There are other things we can do
at 36 inches. So, in Barak Thryng, I prefer Gyrocopters.
Gyrocopters are doing something that your rest of your army can't do so well, which is deal with hordes.
Mhm.
So
what happens
If your meta has
Ulrichs? You
Sorry?
have monster hunting Ulrichs that come out of the ground, and you have gyros that kill all the chaff. You really F up some Zinch in this kind of take Skywardens with
yeah, Zinch is a bit. The pinks are a bit of a problem because the models are not there yet before they split. So there's only maximum 20. So okay, you're doing 60 shots. You will do damage, but you're not going to do.
There's a
more
huge
than
amount of
40 damage.
there, but not a huge amount of models.
Exactly.
Oh, see, no, so that's where you kill the pinks first, and then you explode into double blues. Right?
And then you shoot your.
Yeah, you got 40.
Okay, so you're saying activate with a different unit first, shoot the pinks, so there's more units for the steam guns, more models for that's covered.
Yeah, but all the pinks I ever encountered, they were always like in a string, which makes it much harder to get them all in range of the steam gun. But yeah, so I agree with Kyle. This is something for 180 points. Come on, those are the points that we got reduced in the last UHB. So there's your.
Yeah, basically.
It's a tool for if you're tournaments and you think there are some armies with hordes. It makes your list more versatile.
And
even if you're not Thryng, just take it as an ally.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I said. I'm trying to build them in Dilfin in my other lists.
Dave Kane did that in his Urbaz list at a tournament. That tournament that was split into like a heat and a finals. He did it in the heat. He had Gyrocopters and Gyrobombers. The other thing is just thematically, they're flying things, flying war machines. And you're already playing KO.
They should have been in the Kharadron Overlord book to begin with.
Yeah.
They should have been our little fighters. They're fighters, not escorts.
They should have gotten
fighters.
Dispossessed.
They
should have gotten Dispossessed keyword.
They are KO prequel. They're the prequel to KO, basically.
Yeah, they are. Yeah. Definitely.
So let's move on. Krohn.
Yeah.
Talk to me about Gotrek. Because I know you like him.
I mean, look.
I'll put him on the spot. Like.
he's slow, all right. He's slow.
Yeah.
But he is so deadly and so tough. He's got it's 5 attacks. He's going to hit and to wound. 6 attacks.
Maybe explaining 6.
I'll see if I can bring more skull. 6 attacks, rerolling to hit and to wound with 3 damage each, doing mortal wounds. He's got a 3-up, feel no pain. He's got 7 wounds.
Doesn't he have 8 wounds?
But he can't be slain. Can't be slain
8
by
wounds, even. 8 wounds.
or anything or hand of dust.
Cannot be slain.
All of
and
his
he
attacks
reduces
are
damage
neg
to 1.
2. So it's... He will kill every monster god.
Cool.
If any big trouble that you've got, he will go and take it out. Yeah, it doesn't like it when I switch to another tab. All right. So he is slow. He's not going to keep up with your boats. But I reckon in a Thryng army where you're mostly going to be on foot and be using that dwarf 4-inch move thing anyway, you get him, you run him into the center objective, and then you've just got board control from that center. That's your center now. You can basically keep the enemy at bay at about they will avoid this 13-inch bubble around the center, and you can use that. You can kind of play around that. He does so much. He did more in the last. It worked better in the last book, but he still does so much.
But why would you take him in Thryng and not in any other sub-faction as an ally?
Well, he's stronger in Thryng than he is normally because
with Thryng it allows you to take other guys.
I think I lost you there.
Yeah, he's cutting it.
Yeah, your connection's going dodgy.
Because he gets to be a Barak Thryng keyword unit.
What does that give him? He rerolls everything anyway.
My connection.
So only exploding 6s once per game on 6 dice, so that's another attack.
It was 6 times re-rolling.
Yeah, he's rerolling anything anyway.
Yeah, but the re-rolling means you're more likely to get a 6.
No, but well,
yeah, okay.
he doesn't get anything out of the.
Yeah.
You get a 6 for Gotrek gives him D6 mortal wounds in addition. So you're already fishing. The thing is, the 6 then gives you another wound dice plus D6 mortals, but it's only 6 dice fishing. Okay, you're gonna get 2 6s maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. So he's strong anyway as an ally.
The unique thing here is if you have him, you can take other stuff.
Yes, that's the only reason.
Yeah. Like you can
take Gotrek, and then you can also take
Bondo Whalebiter.
Yeah, it's the only army other than Mixed Order that can take both of those.
So you can have an Ironclad, a Gargant, and Gotrek.
Yes.
If you want to.
Yeah. And then
build that list.
Nothing else.
Have other mercenaries if you wanted, or other allies. So you can.
No, because the Gargant already is above the.
Oh no, I mean instead of Bondo.
No, you need the small guy and the big guy. That's the list.
I mean, you can give him -2 to hit in melee for people attacking him in melee. That's pretty sick. -3 if you're abusing vent plates.
Yeah.
Yeah,
people like to shoot Gotreks. It's just if you use vent plates normally. Like, you got Gotrek, I'm going to shoot him. Well, you're going to be -1 to hit. So. Yeah.
-2 because look out, sir.
Yeah.
But yes, that's the thing with Gotrek, that he dies too quick if you throw dice at him.
Personally, I don't think there's a very good list with him in.
Yeah, he's still point.
I tried coming up with a Gotrek list, but no, it didn't really work.
It's a shame.
It doesn't really work.
Now, if we can have Boatrek.
Oh, Boatrek would be insane.
Yeah. That would be another story, but there's a reason why we can't do that.
Yes.
Wait, hang on. It's lore friendly. There's a book in fantasy where Gotrek is on an airship. He's fighting a dragon. It's there. It's happened.
And there's gyrocopters flying about too.
Yeah. It's a shame. I mean, if we could have Boatrek, then
Yeah.
We'd be the most
Everywhere.
broken army in the game. Bar
Just
none.
imagine Bowtrek with spell in a bottle with cogs. So you can just fly high and a skyhook on the Ironclad, so you just fly high. And then, what is it keyworded on the Admiral? Could you give GoTrek +1 to hit?
Nah, it's marine. I think it's
Keyworded.
It's anything inside the boat.
Yeah, but is it keyworded to Kharadron Overlords?
Let me
pretty
check.
sure.
One friendly sky vessel that has a model with this command ability in its garrison. Add 1 to hit rolls for attacks made by that sky vessel and any models in its garrison in that
so
phase.
it would.
There we go.
How broken would we be if you could just charge GoTrek turn
Give
one?
GoTrek the marine keyword. Do it.
Because you'd have to have a battalion to get the spell in a ball. So you'd
Just
have
ally him in that Sylphin list.
No, but I was just saying you'd have.
Do it.
Then you
You hear that? You hear that,
Yeah.
GW? Winter FAQ, give GoTrek the marine keyword. It'll be
Just
fine.
because of narrative reasons.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's cinematic. Do it.
We just put him up to 1,000 points and do it.
You just need to put him in a gunhauler and then go forward.
Yes.
with
The
eight-
hero
yeah.
boat. The hero
I
boat.
don't even
How
need cogs. Just throw him in a gunhauler, and suddenly this guy has
Yeah.
18-inch movement turn
You
one.
don't need. Well, as Max said, if you go in Zilfin, then it doesn't matter. You just get him out of the boat. You just fly high, get
teleport.
out, and have a 3-inch charge.
You don't even have to get out. You just teleport the boat, and then in your movement phase, move the boat, and then charge anyway. And then you've got the ram, and you've got anyway.
Well, it's not
Let's
going to
move
happen.
because it doesn't work. You can't do it. It's an hour and a half, and we haven't looked at a list, and we've got 6 lists. So,
Well, I think
is
we
there anything
explained
else
most of it yet.
that we need to talk about before we look at a list?
Not as Duardin units. I think we covered them all.
Because I don't think we need to talk about the army in general, how it plays, because you can play in several.
Well, maybe
one
one
more
thing. Yeah, sorry. Go on.
So, just we haven't said this yet, but you can have 1/4 your army
Yeah, that was
have
yeah.
the keyword. You can have 1/4 your army be allies. So what that means is you could have 50% of your army not be Kharadron Overlords, although 1/4 of that will not have the keyword, and that quarter is limited to 400 points. Whereas the Barak Thryng is not point limited, but it is limited to 1/4. So there's some kind of silly shenanigans where you can do.
Oh yes, we've got examples.
Yeah.
Let's look at the examples.
Let's look at the examples.
I don't know when they are because I can't remember what order they're in. But
it's a good point. Yep.
It's not just with the Duardin stuff though. So you could bring 400 points of Stormcast if you wanted. And
Ether wings.
And then 10
units,
10 units of Aether Wings. That would go lovely in one of the lists that we've got. The one with the last one.
You couldn't do that. No, that's not possible. You'd be 1/4 your army. You cannot take enough. You cannot take enough.
I don't think we could get 10, but in that last list, there's a lot
What's the
of units.
max unit size for Ether wings?
I don't know, but you run them in threes, don't you? You don't want to run.
Come on, you're the Ether Wing guy.
You would run them in threes. I think the max is 12.
No, I mean to get down the numbers of
but you want to run them in threes, don't you? You don't gain anything by running them in larger numbers, really.
You don't gain anything by using 10 of them anyway, so let's go on.
You do. It's port control. You've got all those units.
Yeah, let's go. Next slide.
Let's look at a list. Whose list is this one? This is your. I think this is one of your lists, Carl.
Yeah.
Well, it's got Skywardens. So
it has Skywardens. It's not my list.
I love Skywardens. Okay. We've already talked about the synergy here, so I'm not going to spend too long with this, but engine master dirigible suit attaches to the Gunhauler. This is your only fly high kind of pressure. So this is kind of like a 40k list in AOS because you have one unit that deep strikes, and that unit shouldn't deep strike until turn 2. What it does is it exists there to kind of threaten your opponent that if they do move forward, I can hit him in the back.
Mhm.
And if they don't move forward, I still have this hero that's like kind of shooting things from over here.
Mhm.
Rune Lord and Warden King already talked about what they could do. They buffed the Longbeards and the Hammers. I'm going to skip the battle line for the moment and just talk about these Longbeards and Hammers real quick. Something that I had noticed is that cohesion in AOS is 1 inch, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
I know where you're going with
Longbeards
this.
Yes.
and Hammers are 25 millimeter bases, right?
Mhm. You're going to do a Tom Lines.
So you can put the Longbeards in front, leave a 1 inch gap in between them, and then same with the Hammers, leave a 1 inch gap in between two of them. When eventually the enemy crashes into your Longbeards, you can retreat those Longbeards behind the Hammers, and the Hammers can charge in immediately afterwards. And you're in this situation where you have all 30 of your Hammers with 90 of their attacks. Assuming that the enemy that
And
you're
an
hitting,
extra rend.
yeah, and the extra rend. You can give them the Philippine or the extra rend. Typically, so the way that I do this is I have the Longbeards sitting at the front. Sometimes I have 2 ranks of 15. Sometimes you can just spread them out all the way if you weren't worried about something, or you could do 3 ranks. The Hammers stand back. You don't want them to be pulled into combat because you need you want to be able to swap them out when the time comes. And if you wanted to put buffs on something, you could just throw it on the Longbeards. But the Longbeards stand in front. They'll have the 6-up Feel No Pain for the first turn off of the Rune Lord. And then when it switches to your turn after you've been charged, you do the swap. You like break the shield wall. You run the Hammers forward. Longbeards go and sit on another objective because they're retreating. And then you smash something with those Hammers. Yeah, the key there is the fact that you can retreat through them. You can't do this for most of the other things in like Fire Slayers or in KO because of the 32 millimeter bases. This is something that you can only do with these Longbeards and Hammers. The Skywardens exist because they have 36-inch threat range. They have 24-inch guns, but they can move 12 and shoot 24, right? So this means the enemy can't just sit on their side of the board because I have 4 drills and a bunch of Skywardens that when they die, we're in Thryng, so they attack with their pikes again. And then if I need to, I can retreat and then drop mortal wounds and then hop on an objective as I'm running away from them if they came to me, because now I'm running into them with my Hammers. So
But why not Riggers?
Because
Riggers will do more damage in combat, more damage in shooting.
But not at 24 inches. They're doing exactly the same.
At 24 inches, they're exactly the same. But they
I
can
think
also
what
heal your
Kyle
bow.
wants is the timed charges ability from
The only thing
Skywardens.
The only thing that's going to be able to charge them is going to be something that can fly, because they're going to be often behind the Longbeards, I assume. Unless you do move them forward.
You can push
it
them
depends
forward.
how you're playing them, but you in some games you're going to be sitting them behind your screen. So the only thing that can charge in turn 1 is something that can fly, which will then, you've got a chance to do mortal wounds against them.
So one of the really hard matchup I had this against was the Keep Deepkin, which is all eels. The Skywardens are kind of funny there because, oh yeah, you charged into me, go ahead and take some mortal wounds here. Not that it mattered too much, but the thing about the eels is that in the second or third turn they activate first, no matter what. So in that situation, sometimes you don't get the perfect situation with your Hammers getting to smack first when they really should. But even when you get cut down to 15 guys left or something, these guys still put on a world of hurt and manage to kill 12 eels in one activation. So this is just it's a counter charge list. You can retreat off, and you don't care if the Skywardens die. You can use the Riggers. The -2 rend is better. You only get 1 attack though. I don't really like one attack kind of models.
I mean, if you have that many special weapons, you probably only have the sergeant anyway, and he's got 2 attacks.
I have let's see, 4 and 4. I have about 8 pikes in this list, and which he has
9.
3 attacks
Okay.
in the custodian. 9. Oh yeah.
Yeah,
already
the
back up.
custodian has an extra.
Yeah.
The
But
other thing is the range. So because if you're running a unit of 12, if you get charged, you don't get to control which of your models are in combat. So that 2-inch range could be pretty useful in terms of actually getting your attacks.
Although it
Depends on
helps,
how you- depends how
piling
you
in when you fly, it helps a lot too.
yeah, the
Set up
2 inches
what you
has
want.
always been really nice. And then just the fact that you can retreat. Retreating is not a bad thing, because usually you'll be in range to move your hammers up, and then retreating, because you're going to be moving. You have fly. You're going to move past whatever just attacked you, and then most armies have to turn around and chase you. Any army that has to turn around and chase you is not moving towards your own objective. So this is just like it's a countercharge movement, shenanigans, kind of like, hey, I'm playing chess. I'm not playing Age of Sigmar. Anything my models touch either dies or is just gonna keep walking on. So yeah, this is definitely one of the more different lists. You can play in KO because it doesn't have any. It has 1 boat, right? The boat has a spar torpedo, but that's just to move your engine master around.
I have one question. Why did you not go for the drill cannon on the gunhauler? If you're gonna keep him in the backfield for some turns in the beginning to get the 36-inch range out of it.
Because I like spike damage. I see what you're saying. I just, as a player, I never run single drills unless I have 2 of them. Or sorry, no, I just never run single drills.
Okay.
Because I like you have a spar torpedo. At some point, you're planning on going forward and smashing into something because your engine master dirigible is a melee hero. In this army, because he's got the hammer, he's got the supremely stubborn. At some point, I'm planning on moving this thing into 12, into melee combat, because you can cycle charge with the Gunhauler, taking the engine master back out, and the engine master heals the Gunhauler 3 every turn. So I'm only planning on keeping him in the back 1 turn. If that's my answer. That's a long-winded answer.
Yeah.
Huh? Okay.
There's another thing that you can do with this list with the Longbeards and the Hammerers, which is where I thought you were going to go with it, but you do it in a slightly different way, is that you can intentionally put the Hammerers within 3 inches.
And attack over.
Attack into the gap. So you pile into the gap between the Longbeards. So you can do that. And then the other thing is with the Skywardens, you can actually put them. So if you put the Hammerers slightly further forward, you can get them pulled into combat intentionally as well. And then they can. So the Hammerers go into the gaps between the Longbeards, and then the Skywardens pile in afterwards and attack over the top of their 2-inch range.
Now, see, that is something you can do. The reason why I keep them out of combat is because 3-inch pile-in on 30 dudes usually means half of them aren't going to make it. When you get hit by something that's like the eels, for example, the eels touch one side of that army, one side of that line, all 2, 3, or 4 or 5 of your units that were in combat range are now stuck. Either you have to retreat or you have to.
You would have to play it in a more compact way. You couldn't string them out, really.
Yeah.
I would also not string them out because the buffs from the dispossessed heroes are limited in range.
12 and 18, though. It's 18 inches on the...
On the Battle Shock 18, yeah, but the Feel No Pain and the Rend is 12, so 24 if you stick him in the middle, but yeah.
I prefer to your method of retreating 1 unit and charging 1 in and just start doing a swap. I think that's really clever. I like that. But I just want to mention, because that's where I thought you were going to go. I've heard other people talking about that with Longbeards. where you can do the pile into the gaps.
Mm.
It's the Gunhauler. I think is really important to have that pressure of like, well, if you do move forwards, it puts your opponent in this awkward position where they've got a bad decision to make, where they feel like they lose either way, because they stay back, they get shot. If they move forwards, they open up space that you can teleport in. So that's always really handy. I don't think without that Gunhaul, I think the list would be a lot weaker. That 130
Definitely helps.
Anything else to add about this list?
The Arcanaut Company run off on their own. you can go Cap and Jeff on the other side.
Yeah, they're just your third battle line. So, because the Longbeards, we mentioned, though they are battle line, they don't count towards your number of battle line. So you still have to have that third unit. The only other weakness of this list is not having a behemoth for scoring purposes. It's not a big deal necessarily.
No, it's one battle.
Just make sure they don't have a behemoth.
Shoot that behemoth, yeah. And well, unlike other KO lists, you don't necessarily have to really focus on trying to get the most points that you can out of each objective. You can just cap objectives and hold on to them, which you can't really do in KO. Like sit on objectives for ages. So, it's an interesting list. Should we look at the next one?
Yep.
Who's this next one? Oh, is this yours, Max? Or one of the ones you played?
Yeah. Something similar. Yeah. Basically, again, Ender Master with dirigible suit for the reasons we mentioned. The Ender Master with Endrin harness because I had some points and I wanted to keep, because I only have the Ironclad and a Gunhauler, and I wanted to keep the Ironclad alive as long as possible, so give him the 3 plus D3 heals, so stick the Ender Master inside. So we begin at the end with the Ironclad. Also, the last word on the Ironclad. So if something charges that Ironclad, I hope to keep it alive as long as possible, and just heal it back up. Basically, so it heals itself. One, the Ender Master heals 3, the other one D3. So
and you
get back in that. And the Ender Rigger. So get back in that range where it can fly high again. Rune Lord and Warden King basically are just there to buff the Longbeards. 30 Longbeards, they're just bodies on an objective. 30 of them, Battle Shock immune, get an extra attack if something charges them from the Warden King, and then the Rune Lord gives him a 6 Feel No Pain, or then a rend on their attack. So they're not too bad when something charges them. So they get 2 attacks. 3s and 4s, 1 rend, 1 damage if they're buffed. It's okay. The Rune Lord and the Warden King as allies, so you have you fulfill those requirements 1 and 4. It doesn't matter because the Rune Lord is not gonna benefit. He doesn't have shooting. He doesn't gonna go in combat. He doesn't need to fight again. The Warden King, he's okay in combat, but better to have that ability on the Longbeards and the 3 Gyrocopters. We talked about the Gyrocopters, that's what they're in there for, to deal with hordes. And then the Gunhauler, the Ironclad, and the 2x6 Ender Riggers, they're there to go in and die, basically, to fight again. So just 1 Skyhawk for a +1 charge, and then all the swords, and then reroll ones, and if they die, you get another shot at those swords attacks. Those swords are great, but it's only 1 attack per model, so you get a second round of it. Great. Arco's battle line. They just sit there somewhere. Basically, that was the idea. Tested it against Sons of Behemoth. Those 30 Longbirds did not like 3 man crushers charging into them. They did not survive that charge. That was scary actually, because they do a lot. That's 30 attacks damage free, just from the small gargants. That was scary, but the rest performed well. The Gyrocopters didn't do anything against Sons of Behemoth, of course, because they only have single model units. But they flew around and captured objectives, so that was good. It was on, I think, Blade's Edge, so I won that in the end because I just had more models jumping around and doing it.
Yeah, Sons of Behemoth are not going to be good on battle plans where there's lots of objectives.
Yeah, so the matchup was not the best, but I think this list could work. It's still a good list. I mean, you have 2 ships, you have Endringer's hitching, you can jump around, you have all the mobility, you have the shots, plus you have something to deal with hordes and something to just sit on your home objective or a middle objective and block it. It's a solid list. I think it can go like 3 and 2 maybe without issues. It has tools. It's a toolbox. You can use it. There's no special tricks to it. There's no gotcha moments.
Yeah. One question I have: when you deploy, do you deploy your ships and your engine riggers and your gunhauler behind the Arcanauts, and put the Longbeards and the dispossessed stuff somewhere else, or do you use the Longbeards to protect your Ironclad and stuff, and then put the Arcanauts somewhere else?
Depends on the matchup.
Or put the Arcanauts inside the ship.
Depends on the matchup. If you don't need many screens, you can put the Arcanauts inside the ship, because they then get to fight again if they die, if something attacks the Ironclad. It depends on the battle plan. If you have like 2 where you want to sit one, the dispossessed, because they're independent. Those dispossessed units, the 3, they just work on their own. They can do their thing. Gyrocopters go on their own anyway, and the rest just does their thing. So you could deploy on 2 sides probably, or deploy the dispossessed on the line, the ships behind. Depends what you're playing.
Yeah.
Can the enemy deep strike? Can he not? Can he summon? I don't know. Yep, that's the list. Nothing too fancy, but it's just bringing bodies into KO.
Yeah. So a question for both you and Carl, because you both put in a Rune Lord and a Warden King. So do you think it's pretty much a no-brainer to always go for both of them?
If you have dispossessed, there's no reason not to have a Warden King.
Yes.
100 points. Always
Depends.
take them in allies. Don't ever include them in the other thing.
Well, yeah. Unless you don't need to.
Yeah, unless you don't need to. The Warden King's okay in fighting, but no, the Warden, because you're playing big units, because you want to bring as many bodies, you need that battle shock immunity.
Yeah.
And the Rune Lord, his buff surge is great. He has a prayer. He can dispel 90 points. A 2+ extra rend or 2+6 of Fetal Pain. That's great.
Okay. One thing I don't think we've unpacked is the Warden King's ability gives +1 attack. Correct? That's a command ability?
Yes.
And that's in the combat phase, I believe, isn't it?
Yeah, start of combat phase. He selects 1 unit within 18 inches of him.
Yeah. So it's useful even if your opponent
charges you.
Charges you first turn, you can still use it, basically.
Yeah, to give the Longbeards a second attack, to make them Iron Breakers, basically.
Yeah, the fact that's in the combat phase is quite handy. And because they're slow, it doesn't matter that you can't buff them in the hero phase and then move them away.
The 18 inches gold, because he's not moving, he's standing on his Oath Stone to give that battle shock immunity.
Yeah. Okay. I don't think I've got any other questions about this list. Krohn, any questions?
No, it looks pretty solid.
Looking at the list the first time now, like
No,
busy painting.
it's a small screen though. Small screen.
You need a bigger phone.
I do.
iPad, tablet.
So if you want to donate to Krohn's Patreon for an iPad.
No, it is solid. It's got defense, it's got offense, it's got maneuverability, which is really important. Yeah.
Yep.
I think it can survive the meta, which at the moment, which is what you need. You need to be able to survive that first couple turns.
If we're going to compare and contrast between this and the one we looked at a minute ago, this one has a little bit more mobility in terms of you've got 2 boats to fly high with, 2 units to take with them, but to get that in, you sacrifice the hammer as countercharge, and you don't have the big units of riggers or Skywardens or riggers for shooting. You have smaller units.
But generally speaking, I think Barak Thryng brings you towards less boats. Yeah.
Yes.
Very much.
At the next one, which that's a good segue because not many boats.
Speaking of not many boats, here's 3 Gunhaulers.
Yeah. So also,
this is very similar. Basically, you swap out the Dispossessed for a block of 30 Vulkites. Now that's 60 wounds on a 4+. You tunnel him in with the Runesmiter. I guess the Runesmiter in this list would also be an ally. Let me count. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, he needs to be an ally.
Yeah.
And then you just have 6 Energigas, Gunhauler.
Yeah, you're one short from him being.
And the Gyrcopters. Basically, it's the same concept.
Yeah,
but you can. The difference here, it's your block of 30 models is mobile, and it's 60 wounds.
We basically started from a place where you have something that's not got much mobility, but is more powerful, and it has got that 1 token mobility. The second list had a bit more mobility, and this one takes it further, and because it's got 3 Gunhaulers, 3 Engine Rigger units, and then also the big block is mobile because it can be dropped. Obviously, it's not mobile once it's dropped in place, because once you drop them, they're not that mobile.
I mean, 30 Volkite is also quite offensive output wise, because the Warpigs, they have rend. The Sling Shields, if you charge them in, everything within 8 inches does a mortal wound on a 6, so that's 30 dice. What's that? 5 mortal wounds.
Do they have a +1 to charge?
They have a +1. They have a Horn of Grimnir.
So they have +2.
No, they have a +1.
Oh no,
so
I know.
for the
Boss tag is in +1 too. I didn't realize they had +2.
Yeah, Boss tag you have +2. You get the reroll all wounds the next round from the Smiter, as we said. And it's 60 wounds standing there on a 4+ save if they didn't charge with the shield. So they're gonna chew through stuff. It's attrition. They're just gonna stand there. You just need to spend a point for battle shock immunity, and then they're just gonna fight it out on the objective. And most importantly, they have not the Barak Thryng keyword, so they don't get to fight on a 4+, but they have an ability called Berserker Fury. Once per game, at the start of combat phase, you activate it. They just automatically fight again if they die. So if something big charges you think, they're going to wipe out a lot of them, pop that, they're going to fight back anyway.
The other thing about this list, the Arcanauts are obviously going to be screening the Gunhaulers and the Engine Riggers because the Vulkites are going to be off the board. So you need the Arcanauts there. The 3 units of Engine Riggers, one of them is set up for melee, the other 2 are for shooting, so you've got a little bit of choice, and you can move around. I put the Surge Injection Engine in. You could go for the Spar Torpedo, but part of my thinking was that you can put the Vulkites in and hold down a point. You can shoot stuff off, and that bit. Stuff is, as like the other list that we talk about, stuff has got to come forwards to deal with those Vulkite Berserkers potentially, because you can drop them right in front of their line. And then a Gunhauler, if they do zone out the back of their board somehow with just heroes and stuff, you can just fly over the top.
With the extra 6 inch.
Stolen that from Timo. To the Timo TM Surge Injection.
But he won't be able to take the Enriquez with him if he does that.
If you do that, you
sorry, why would you ever take Surge Injection? I'm confused.
To get
To-
extra move.
to get on an objective when you're zoned out of fly high.
But you already have 18-inch. So surge injection gives you.
Yeah,
another,
you
what,
combine them because
1.6,
people like you. So you combine them and you can move like how much is it? Up to 24.
It's another
It's
12.
2d3, 18 plus 2d3.
What are the
Basically.
Gunhaulers in this book?
So if your opponent really knows what your capabilities are, then you can like, oh, I can use this thing as well.
Mhm.
Really,
Just
get
one
somewhere.
Gunhauler though. It's one model.
Yeah.
Which
It's,
is often enough.
So you're relying on shooting anything else, basically. But it's when you can't fly high onto an objective, because you can't. The other way you could do it is if you can get all 3 Gunhaulers, then you've got 3 chances of getting a charge off. Because
So you can
got
add
3
2 D3 if you want to risk it, or D3.
Yeah, but it's only 1 mortal wound.
So
and you
potentially
don't
that's 24-inch move.
like, if your Gunhauler goes from 10 wounds to 9, it doesn't matter, does it? Like you never lose
No.
fly high. You never like lose any
No,
damage.
it doesn't.
Until
Unless he's on 1 wound. He wants to
Yeah.
get there and he blew him up.
Yeah. So like the ideal situation is you fly high all 3 ships, and then you've got 3 chances of charging with a 10. Like if you really need to get on that objective, you've got 3 chances of charging with 3 units, like all with 8-inch
Plus
charges
1.
on the 9. But if you can't fly high in there because there isn't the space, then you can surge injection in. Yeah. But this list is untested, so it could be rubbish.
I think it's going to struggle against some of the really tough lists like OBR or other Fire Slayers. I don't think this list will actually put out enough damage to be able to hurt them. Just from experience with how Engine Riggers and Gunhaulers work, it'll decimate anything average and soft, but once you hit those real brick armies, this is just going to smash off of them and disappear.
Yeah. It's going to struggle on someone like Places for Arcane Power as well, because the 2 lists before had 3 heroes.
All of them
2.
are going to struggle.
Although you can just drop the Rune Smiter. He won't score the first turn because he won't be moving. You can drop him on and then just put 30 Vulkites Bezerkers around him.
Yes.
Like zone off the objective. Yeah.
That battle plan is just
I would almost
shit for
drop
KO.
Yeah, I'd almost drop the 6 riggers down to 12, 6 squads of 3.
Yeah.
Because in my experience, even with the +1, making an 8-inch charge, you might as well just get +1 attacks from having 2 Mitten Masters, rather than have 2 Mitten Masters and then have either 2 grapnels or take 3 drills instead of the 3 skyhooks. Because I don't know why you need to charge. I mean, you either are going to make a charge in your own turn where you moved afterwards, or you're going to be making a long shot charge with an 8-inch on 3 guys who maybe 1 out of the 3 squads are actually going to make that charge.
Yeah. Yeah. So the 2 of the units are shooty, so they could in theory have drill cannons, because you'd have 4, which would be sort of okay for trying to get some 6s. Yeah, the 1 unit of 6, and you could definitely put that into 2 units of 3. I mean, or you could go. It depends how you want to play it. Like you could go into 6 units of 3, but yeah, it depends really on how much flexibility you want. But yeah, the multiple units charging is definitely more likely to get the charge than 1 unit with +1.
I think for combat effectiveness, you want small, like 3 units of 6, because then you'll activate your squad of 3 and they'll fight, and then the enemy will fight and kill the other squad of 3. They won't get to activate.
Except on 4-ups. Yes, I agree with you most of the time. That's why I usually stick with 12 groups of 12. But 1 group of 6 isn't going to kill anything in melee.
No, unfortunately, it won't.
1 group of 3 is surprisingly effective because of the Mizzen Master, as you mentioned. Like,
Hmm.
so you get 4 attacks on 3s and 2. Like, because you can't expect a unit 6 to go in and kill anything meaty, can you? Which is that's the problem you identified earlier, Krohn, was like they can't necessarily go and kill something big. And something small, then maybe a 3-man unit could probably kill it anyway. Like if you just want to go in and kill an enemy hero or a 10-man battle line unit that's sitting on an objective, then a 3-man unit can probably do it by the time you've shot and charged.
Yep, or 2 3-man units that come in with a gunhauler. One of them
Yeah.
makes a charge.
Yeah, that's what I meant is the combat from one unit, because
Yeah.
probably only one unit's getting in. So, yeah. And I think the only thing we didn't mention was the Gyrocopters in there. But we talked about them, just in case, for anyone that's listening and not watching, so they can't see that. Let's move on to the next one, because we've got lots. So, I think this is one of yours, Carl.
It's got Skywarden, so I think it is.
Has to be.
Is this my second one? Is this what I showed you last night?
I think so, yeah.
3 wardens, drills, volleys. So this is pretty similar. This is a escort wing. So basically, my entire army all the time will have reroll 1s to hit, regardless of whether or not I win over the 3 or not. But I think this is kind of like the more balanced KO. Like, okay, I'm playing KO. I just happen to have 500 extra points.
And it's only 4-drop.
Yeah, it's only a 4-drop.
Right?
Yeah, this is like a normal KO list, but you threw in your Hearthguard Bezerkers because you could, and this is what the
because we can afford to. Thank you, GHB. We didn't actually get that many points, but
no, not that many. But the thing is, Hearthguard Berserkers are undercosted. Rest of our units are kind of middle costed. Cities of Sigmar are definitely undercosted. But the biggest weakness of KO, not having frontline units that can sit on objective and fight back. Arcanaut Company can sit on objectives but can't really fight back. The biggest weakness of Hearthguard Berserkers, they can get onto objective, but they can only sit on one objective. Now, if you take these 2 units, they just cut these 2 armies, basically playing 2 armies, and they complement each other's weaknesses. Like when I actually read the book the first time, I was like, okay, what is this subfaction trying to do? I felt like this was it. All the other ones, are fun, and we can do them, but this is the one I would take to a tournament and say, okay, here, I got 20 Hearthguard Berserkers for 4 up Penal Pain. You can't kill the Rune Smiter because the rest of my army sniped all your heroes. So go ahead, good luck trying to get through those Hearthguard Berserkers. There's very few things in the game that win against Hearthguard Berserkers unbuffed. Or sorry, win.
Take away their buffs.
Yeah, the problem that I have with Hearthguard is out of Fire Slayers, they're only on a 5+, 4+ Penal Pain. They'll go to a 6+ Penal Pain if the Rune Smiter dies, which he could die. Okay, you put Plate of Perfect Protection on him to ignore modifiers on his save, but he has a 4+ or only a 5+ save.
5+. It's kind of a moot point just because none of the other
the runic icon. Why does he have a runic icon?
Plus 6 to his range on the
That's the forge key.
Oh, it should be forge key. Yeah. Swap.
That's fine. I've never seen anyone use a runic icon because and it's a runic iron. It's just an extra attack he has. Which why would he fight?
Supposed to be forge
key. Yeah. That's the thing with Hearthguard. Outside of Fire Slayers, they don't get to activate for you because they're not in Hermdar. And yes, so you lose all the. You cannot bring them up to a 3+ save, reroll 1s. They don't have Lords of the Lodge to activate twice, so they are much less scary, but they're still scary.
But all you need in KO is bodies. I find that
Yeah.
the 1500 point KO list usually can kill most enemy armies. You just
Mhm.
can't score. So when you have something like this, where it's like, okay, I'm just going to drop this in front of your army after I've already shot off all your stuff in turn 1, or I drop. So typically I drop these in turn 2, because I kind of do play it like 40k, but you can drop them in turn 1, have them get someone charges into them, and you're shooting things off. But typically I like to take out the things that actually threaten the Rune Smiter first. So that's what I'll spend my first turn doing, is shooting the things that could potentially snipe him out.
Then
you can take out their wizards, or you can take out their shooting units. And then...
So that's why you have all the drill launchers. Then I see your thunders are also equipped with fumigators and special weapons. So you're planning to drop them on a objective too.
That, or I could just, the Hearthguard Bezerkers are there. I could drive the ship up, be within 9 the turn after. Depends. It gives you a lot of options.
With the special weapons, you really want to be outside of the boat.
Yeah, that's why. So it's another 10 bodies with 2 wounds each to sit, either on another objective, or this is close to the Hearthguard. My main question would be, if Hearthguard are there for bodies that can take a punch, why not for 20 points more 30 Vulkites?
You can't put it in.
Yep.
You could drop the rewards. You could do that.
You've got an extra command point, so
actually, yeah, you can get rid of the extra command point.
You're
put
right.
that in.
So it's 20 more points, 20 more wounds. Okay, they only have a 4+ and no feel no pain.
I just really like the feel no pain. I don't know. I find that the feel no pain. It is in some
very
way
powerful.
It goes away quickly, unfortunately.
Well, if you can take out, I mean, because he said he tries to take out the things that can take out the Rune Smiter. So if you do take out those things before you drop them, then the feel no pain doesn't go away. Because if they haven't got anything that can kill the Rune Smiter,
you need to. But if fighting a magic heavy army, like it's a lot, or a shooting army, okay, you're gonna take out all their shooting.
I have a question, which is why did you put in the extra command point?
It's either that or 40. Actually, you know what?
Wings.
Got a point. Having a triumph is better, just objectively better.
Than having the command point.
So
I was thinking at the time when I wrote this, Battleshock Immune on the Hearthguard, just in case. But the Grundstock Escort wing already gives you the +1. And you don't need CP for anything else in this army, except for maybe re-rolling the ones in saves for mild defense. But you were right. That extra command point shouldn't be there.
I would just a small change would be for the frigate. I'd give it the Malefic Sky Mines instead of the Prudency Shoots. So I think if the frigate goes down, rolling ones isn't going to be the problem. It's just deploying the Thunderers is just going to kill them all, because you won't be able to set them up. I just go Malefic Sky Mines. Just put more mortal wounds on anything that tries to charge the frigate. It's always good.
Not even charge, just fly it within 6 and poof.
Yeah, that part was kind of weird to me. Yeah, it's true. That's true.
Just a 6-inch ability.
I've found that through playing a lot with the close range frigate, that Prudency Shoots has been kind of helpful for me in my Urbaz list. That's kind of why I had it.
Okay.
Usually I agree that Malefic Sky Shoots is kind of silly when you have this idea that you're not going to have Thunders inside for very long, or if you're in a situation where your frigate is dying, there's something that you did wrong as a player. So shoots can be kind of silly in that regard too. But the Thunders are just really expensive, and so sometimes the thing gets shot down and they get dropped out, or it gets mortal wound to death and they drop out. And I've had kind of bad experiences with rolling ones sometimes. So that's what. But yes, I agree that you can perfectly just as easily swap this for sky mines, depending on the player.
So one other thing, which is not really a question, it's just a clarification. So that Plate of Perfect Protection comes from the realm of Shaman. So if you're looking at the list and wondering what that is, it's a realm artifact. So this has to come from Shaman to get that.
And it reduces the rend by 1, I think.
Yeah.
Does it?
So it's not great when he's got a
It's
5
not
up save.
ethereal. Yeah, but it helps.
Let's be honest,
does.
none of the realm artifacts are great anymore.
The only other good artifact is the heal one, but like he's got 5 wounds.
Yeah.
If anything's touching him, he's probably dying.
Mhm.
I don't think there's one that gives him a feel no pain, but maybe there is in Shyish, gives a 6 up.
There's 6 up feel of pain, I think there's one.
So that's arguable.
Give me a second.
One other thing, just generally about any Rune Smiter list with a Rune Smiter plus bodies type star list is you can drop them down on terrain. You can't do that with Fly High.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just another handy little thing about that. And the same with objectives, but the objective thing is 1 inch. So you can get objectives.
So there's no feel no pain. You can only reroll saves or heal 1 wound.
Yeah. No, Plate, I think, was one of the better.
Yeah, it's the better option. Yep.
Yeah, I guess you could go to a 4 up save and -1 to hit. You steal the
-1 to hit, 4 up save, ignore 1 rend, 5 wounds. Okay, he can survive two rounds maybe, unless board wide croak D3 mortal wound spells happen.
Yeah.
Okay, we can go on to the next one.
Yeah, okay. So the next one is then we're moving more into the meme lists now.
Okay, you guys do this one.
So
This
is a thing you can do.
Is it a thing you can do?
Is it a thing
really
you
a thing
should
you can do?
It's a thing you
Is it a thing you should do though?
Is another matter. Ironically, that is not the list with the most unit of Skywardens you're going to. Actually, it is, but it's not the most MSU list you're going to see.
No, it's the only. It's the list with the most Skywardens that you're going to see that we decided that wouldn't melt everything if we put it up on this. That other list should not exist.
Well,
So
they should all be riggers.
Just you wait,
I have nothing to do with this list.
They should all be riggers.
So, I mean, because the thing is, you can take Hearthguard Bezerkers, and they're expensive. So to get 2 units in and 2 Rune Smiters, the only real way you can do that is if you then make your Rune Smiters allies, which means then you only have to have, in theory, 8 units total.
4 units. 4 units of a KO.
Yeah, 4 units of KO, 8 units in total. So basically, this list is, what do you do if you want to try and get 40 Hearthguard Bezerkers in a list?
Well, why would you want to? I mean, again, it's 80. So you can have 2 Rune Smiters. Only 1 Rune Smiter is needed in order to give the 4 up feel no pain.
Yeah.
So even if one gets smited down, you still have the other one.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said earlier, you could drop this. He said wholly within 12 of the Rune Smiter, right? The drop
with
6.
12.
Down is
Wholly within 12, so you have 2 24-inch blocks, so you can drop 9 inches off the deployment line, and then shoot over that with the drills. Or, actually, I know. I think that's probably one of the best things you could do. So this is just a real quick. Hey, is it possible to take 40 Hearthguard Bezerkers in KO? Yes, you can, and this is how you can do it. Let's not spend too much time on this already at 2 hours.
Yes. And then we're getting an echo from somewhere. Where's that coming from?
Alex headset.
Might be a little too close.
Yeah.
So there is reasons why I said to take Skywardens here instead of Riggers. and that simply being MSUs, anyone who actually survives, runs away, drops bombs. The thing with riggers is that you're paying for healing, and you're not using the healing. So you might as well just take the unit that
Yeah.
you're going to use all the rules on.
The thing I was just checking was that the Feel No Pain buff is 10 inches, but it's just within. It's not wholly within.
Just within 10.
Like they take out one of your rune smiters, you can pretty much easily, when you drop them down, get both of them within 10 inches of the other unit, and because it's not wholly within, then you can occupy quite a lot of space. The drill launcher. So you've got 5 attacks. No, wait, 7. 7, yeah. Sorry, can't count. Obviously, 7 attacks. You're going to get some more wounds.
Free.
Should we move on to the next one? Because it's just really, this list is 40 Hearthguard Bezerkers, and everyone knows
for your beers and pretzels.
Have
a laugh with your friends.
One of the best Fire Slayers list you can take right now is 40 Hearthguard and 15 Ulrichs. So instead of taking the 15 Ulrichs, why don't you take 16 Skywardens?
With better movement than the Ulrichs.
This one scores more points. But yeah, let's go. We'll move on.
But the Hearthguard are much weaker in this one.
Hearthguard are much weaker.
Yeah.
Okay. Next.
So
what is this?
This list is.
So first question: who owns that many balloons? Second question: why?
So this list is, if you want to play Barak Thryng, I'm just going to unmute Krohn because I muted him because the echo, but he's back. Welcome back, Krohn. So this list is, what do you do if you want to play Barak Thryng and you don't want to use the 1 in 4 Duardin?
What is this? What is this?
So Leia asked me.
Why is this?
He said, "What army? So what list would you make if you didn't take any allies?" And I said, "Well, there's only one that makes sense. Oh, there's 2."
You said Arcanaut spam first, and I said, "Well, surely Riggers or Wardens is better because they're glass cannons, and they get to fight again." It's the problem with being glass cannons is they die, but if you can fight again, because with any other Barak Thryng, any other pure KO list, I think it would be better in a different Skyport. Other than this.
Has any one of you actually read the flavor text of Barak Thryng?
We don't listen. No.
Where they don't have jetpacks.
These ultra-conservative Duardin judge everything against the glories of the past and inevitably find that it measures short. This measures very short.
Hang on. You cannot retreat from Wardens with grapnel launchers.
Yeah.
If you put 4 of these things forward, anything that touches them can't retreat. And when they die, they fight with their pikes, and they're shooting them with the riggers.
Let's explain the list a little bit, because it started off on spam, and we refined it a bit. So, because originally this list was just 54 Skywardens.
Max, you feel my pain, don't you?
I feel ashamed. The answer is ashamed of this.
Nah, we can skip past this. We can come back to this after I've tried it. So
this is the last list. So
what does the Admiral do in this list?
He sits with the 30 Arcanauts. So this is the thing: is originally this list was like, well, what do you do? Like because Barak Thryng benefits MSU because all of your units get the reroll ones. You don't need necessarily to have some big units. The only time you want a big unit is for the footnote. So you benefit a lot from MSU. Most of the buffs are on the other buff is on Skyfarers. So the ships don't benefit from that buff. So the obvious thing to do is to go max out on Endrinriggers or Skywardens. then the reality of that is you probably want to have some bodies on an objective somewhere. And normally with Thryng, you do that with some Longbeards or some Hearthguard or Vulkites like we talked about. But if you want to play pure KO because you like the look of KO models and you don't want to do counts as or conversions, this is like, you could do it like this with 30 Arcanauts. You take an Admiral because you need 2 heroes. You can't run a list with 1 hero. So the Admiral sits with the Arcanauts and makes them Battleshock immune. So you've got a point locked down. You've got a screen for everything as well. And then you've got 12 Engine Riggers in 1 unit with 4 drill launchers, 4 volley guns. There, Max is just walking away. Oh, he's coming back. I thought, Max, for a second there. Oh, he can't hear me. Max, for a second there, I thought you were so disgusted that you just walked off.
No.
So
I just picked something up that I'd like to share after.
Okay. The 12 Engine Riggers, they are doing the same thing as the Skywardens were doing in the first list we looked at, whereas they're a big shooty threat that is sitting on your side of the board. You can push them forward because you've got so many different other units to protect them that your opponents can't get to them. That means your opponent has to come forwards. If your opponent comes forward, they've got to go through multiple units of MSU. They've got, in your turn, you're going to charge them and tag units with one of your 4 units of Skywardens that have got grapnel launchers, which means they can't retreat from them. If they charge the Skywardens, or then they've got potentially taken mortal wounds, or you can retreat out the Skywardens and try and do mortal wounds on a 4+, which it's not much if you've got 1 unit, but when you've got 4 units of them and you potentially got 4 units retreating, then you can maybe do something there. But really the main power is just in holding units up and having the ball control. And then you've got the 3. Oh, there's actually a mistake on this list. And it's worse.
There's a lot of mistakes on this list, but okay, let's go with yours.
No,
Hang on.
The mistake was starting this list.
Big brain. Each model has a 6-inch bubble where you can't move past them in the movement phase.
Yeah.
That is huge.
Unless you can fly.
Yeah.
Unless you can fly.
Yeah, but you can't land in that bubble either, though. So you've got plenty of units zoning out space.
Amount of space.
Yeah. You can control a huge amount of the board. The other 3 units of Engine Riggers is where the mistake is. 4 units of Engine Riggers where the mistake is, because it says 2 drill launchers and 2 volley guns, because originally that was copy and pasted from one that was 6. So it was actually obviously only 1 of each because you couldn't have 2. But that means in total you've got 8 drill cannon shots. So you've got the mortal wound output from shooting. You can deal with stuff that, if you're negative to hit, because you can just fish for 6s. The 12 and the big unit 12 you can use with the footnote once per game. And then you've also got the 1 unit of 6, which is your melee unit to countercharge something that's being held up and is trying to get through to your main shooter unit. And they're trying to get through to your main shooter unit or your armor, and then they finally get anywhere near them, and then they get countercharged by some melee Engine Riggers.
So, if anyone thinks this episode is too long, it's because of this. Because Lee put 5 days of thought into this list.
No, I put 5 days of thought into
hopefully not gonna see the light of day.
I put 5 days into
it.
other lists that I didn't like.
Challenge accepted.
And then this one was written in about 5 or 10 minutes last night.
Yeah.
I can tell.
It's going to die. Any army that looks at it is going to go, that's a lot of bodies. It looks a little bit intimidating. What happens if I touch them?
Yeah.
Skywardens tumbling out of the sky,
There's almost an endless wave of them, isn't there?
It's
because they can only really, unless they've got a lot of shooting, they can only really take out they can only, their big units can only charge 1 unit at a time.
But you don't need a big unit. You just a unit of 10 demonettes will hit one of these and kill them.
Yeah. Maybe, but this is the thing: is if you charge the demonettes first and you tag them on the end of their unit, and then they only get like 2 demonettes in.
So what I want to see is you set up your nice bubbles and screens of this, and then Techless throwing a spell portal in the middle of this and doing his spell where he deals 3 mortal wounds to everything, and they just explode and run from battle shock.
Oh man!
Like,
Yeah.
All I hear is, "I dare you to try it."
do it.
I'm gonna come back to you guys with some results. We'll see what happens.
I feel like if anyone has the balls to run this list, you'll be on the next podcast. Okay,
Well,
just you take this list to an event.
So, Kyle, seriously, would
Who
you run
has
this
that
list
many?
or a variation of it?
Yeah, actually, how many balloon boys is this?
14 times 3.
Hey man, I bet you somebody once said, "Nothing but eels? Why the hell would you do that?"
Yeah, exactly. Like the first time someone wrote a list of 27 eels, all in units of 3, then probably someone went, "What the hell?"
That's 14. 14 times 3 is 42.
Look, no one's going to expect this. You're gonna have the element of surprise. They won't see this coming.
You're gonna have a hard time telling your units apart.
So this is the thing with this list. In your shooting phase, you know how you need tokens for Aether Gold? You will need some other tokens to know which units you've activated. Because you've got so many units on the board that you have
just
to
use your Aether Gold tokens, because you don't have any Aether Gold in this either.
Well, the Arcanauts and the Engine Riggers.
The engine riggers can spike super hard.
Yeah, those 12 Engine Riggers.
Also, each one of these MSUs have custodians, which they have +1 attacks and each one of these guys.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
so there's 3 attacks.
Kyle will try this at the next.
It up. I bet you a lot of people are in pain. Anyone who sees this in the future, you're gonna go, "What the hell is wrong with these guys?" But it's something that you can do. It was more of a thought experiment.
Yeah. If you want a reason to not listen to this podcast, this is it. It's right here.
Well, I mean,
we will tell you.
Like 3.5 hours, they're all gone already.
You could write a more balanced KO list, but I swear to you, if you do, it will be better than another Skyport.
It's true. I agree.
Yeah.
As soon as you put boats in here, you might as well play Zon.
Yeah. You go for a melee list and you would be better in Zon, or if you put lots of boats in, you'd be better in Sylphin, or you do even a counter charge list that isn't using the Duardin element. You might as well be playing Barak Mornar, maybe. Playing more Tubman does so.
And that's my problem with that 4+ fight again, because KO units, the Skyfarer units, there's not much I actually want to do that one. It's a nice gimmick, but
is going to use the Zon Thryng abilities a lot. You're going to get to use all the Thryng abilities a lot in this list as you're dying. But you'll be able to use them.
On a 4+.
This list is just designed to keep throwing units at the enemy so that they can't move onto the objectives. And when they finally can move onto the objectives, you've got 30 Arcanauts there that are battle shock immune, and they're still being shot by 12 Engine Riggers, which every turn are doing a fair bit of damage. I can tell neither of you are convinced. But
I'm not convinced.
Let's wrap it up. We're at 2.5 hours almost.
Yeah, we're at 2.5 hours. We've divided the Geldrad. There's a civil war brewing. Where to go join Mornar in the?
I'm looking for a different list to take to this casual tournament I'm going to, because it is going to be more casual. And I'm gonna use something that isn't the usual, because the usual gets boring after a bit. I'm going to try something funky. Maybe not this funky, but I'm going to try something funky.
Remember what they said on Facebook? Every single KO list has 1 to 3 boats in it. We've done it. We made a list.
We've done it.
Yeah.
Mission accomplished.
I guarantee you, a really good player, not me, because I'm not a really good player. I'm just going to say that now. Like, there's a reason why I get guests on this show. I need people that are better players than me to explain things.
I'm not a good player either. I'm just here and because I'm not leaving. So
a really good player could take this to a
We
win,
picked
I
up
think.
Max one day and he just hangs around like a bad smell now.
Yes. He's the best place that never ends. But yeah, I think a really good player could win a tournament with this because no one's going to expect it.
Sure.
But
I mean, it has movement. It has a lot of shots.
So I've got I know. Yeah, you could win a tournament. All you got to do is you make sure you get everyone else really drunk.
well,
There's
the
a lot of
caveat is,
firepower, dude.
yeah,
There's a lot of firepower here.
Yeah,
A lot of cost-effective
lot of
36-inch threat range firepower.
Actually, you could probably give all the Skywardens volley guns as well. Increase the firepower.
Probably.
That's what I said at first.
The main thing is they got grapnels because for
Also,
they can have
I'm
volley
not
guns.
sure how the enemy riggers all have 2 drill launchers and 2
I've
volley
already
guns.
We're just not paying attention. Where were you?
Yes, listen, Krohn, and you.
Like we talked about all these
We
things.
talked about that when I said there was a mistake in the list, and you said there was lots of mistakes in the list.
He just
Actually,
now
that's true.
looked
Yeah,
at
he
the
said
list.
this
Okay.
list is a mistake. You actually commented on it.
I did.
Okay, let's wrap it up, guys. We're at 2.5 hours. Don't want to
I don't
look at
think
the timestamp.
we
and
could
go,
go
what the
on
hell?
forever about how much you don't like this list. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's fine.
Do we have another
And
one?
we could defend it forever.
Sure.
It's
Whatever-
it is what
whatever.
it is. Let us know in the comments what you think of this list, what you think of the other Thryng list. If you played Thryng, let us know. There's someone's probably got a really good list that they've done well with in Thryng that we haven't shown, so be cool to see
So-
that. Hit like and hit subscribe.
Maybe we should summarize like quickly.
Oh,
Thryng is if you want to bring more than you're allowed in allies.
Yeah.
If you want to bring bodies, that KO lack, so that's a good thing.
Okay.
And there's 2 options to bring horde clearing. One of them is cheap, and the other one is monsters. If you want to bring dragons, cool.
and you can MSU spam.
Sure. And yeah, if we're gonna wrap up, there's one thing I'd like to do.
Yeah, go
I
ahead.
want to shout out to Donald Taylor. You probably know him or heard of him from tournaments that the Honest Wargame has streamed. And he was so nice to send me these.
Oh, there's beer mats.
He actually went out of his way to send me his pre-order Bookman's beer coasters, which are Duardin themed in a Sons of Behemoth army. I
Even
don't know
better.
why. Yeah, they're super cool. There's a Troll Brew one. There's a Bookman XXXXXX one.
You're the bigger one.
Bookman Special, and the Durgrun's Hellfire one, which is
Where
a
can I get one
brew.
of these?
You got these if you pre-ordered the Big Gargants on GW's site, which I did not do, but he did, and he was so kind to send me these. He went to the post office and sent them all the way to Germany, so thank you very much. That's
cool.
awesome. I love
Yeah.
these. They're perfect for my Duardin army, so thank you, Donald Taylor.
That's a really nice thing to do.
Yep.
That's cool.
Just wanted to shout out and thank him.
Yeah, great. He's going to get inundated with requests now from him. But I'm sure he's probably only had the one set. But yeah, that's really cool. Nice of him. And you see, we've got such
probably
great,
gonna-
nice players in the community.
They are, especially in the Sons of Behemoth, the WhatsApp chat, what cool conversions people do and pictures they share, and they're super supportive. I'm gonna probably frame them, all 4 of them, in a little frame and put them up somewhere.
It would be a shame to use them because I assume they're just like the normal beer mat.
They're
Actually, oh, no.
rather
I thought-
thick. They're rather
Yeah.
put it cardboard, but they're rather
Yeah.
strong and sturdy. But yeah, like arrange
As
them
soon as
like
they get
4x4.
wet, they will
Yeah,
have
yeah,
the rings
yeah.
on and stuff,
Yeah.
won't they? So yeah, be a shame
But,
to waste them. By
Yep.
actually using them.
But that was cool. Cool community, as you said. Were great guys out there.
Cool.
And play more Duardin.
Yeah. So yeah, that's it. Hit like, hit subscribe. Let us know which barrack you want us to do next as well for the the Navigating the Skyports series.
There's 4 more left.
All to go.
Yep.
Be nice if we keep
And then
Sylph into
we
that,
could-
because
We could do a special episode on non-Barak Skyports as well.
Mhm.
yes, and maybe Tempesar as well.
I've never heard of that. What are you talking about? I'm just kidding. What are these
Just
custom
imagine the list
Skyports
we
you're
can come up
talking
with
about?
to trigger them.
I
You
can
could-
heal or I can retreat and charge. It's amazing.
Cool. Right. Thank you very much for watching, everyone.